taking me get all the time in the world.
Do you track her?
Some plans or anything like that.
Life 360 is really good.
Good evening, everyone. I now call to order the March 9th meeting of the East Penn Board of School Directors. Please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First, let me just say, wonderful to see all the wonderful faces this evening. And as a part of our student recognition, we are pleased, extremely pleased, to have our Fall State Champions with us this evening. Dr. Campbell is going to introduce our coaches and athletes, and we are pleased that you're here. Dr. Campbell.
Good evening, everyone. We're not usually this popular at our school board meetings, so it really is awesome to see all of you. I joked to one of our coaches that I think perhaps arranging a date where we could all meet to recognize you may have been almost as hard as it was for you to win your state titles, because we had to do a lot of rescheduling, again, just because weather was a little bit uncooperative, but we are really humbled and honored to have you all here as our guests. So I'm going to start off with some background information regarding our team and our individual student athlete state champions who are here tonight. I will introduce your coaches as well. And then if you don't mind, we really would love if you would stay behind for a couple minutes after we do the recognition, because we'd like to get a group photo, and we always invite our board members to be a part of that group photo. So I'm going to start off with recognizing the Emmaus High School field hockey team for an outstanding 2025 season. I will say, for many of you, it is not your first state championship that you have won. The Hornets finished the season with a 27-1 record, winning both the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference Championship as well as District 11 Championship, and your season ended, as we know, with the AAA state championship win over Central Bucks. Under your head coach, Sue Butz-Staven, she herself, has really a remarkable record and sustained success in which our program, the program that you're a part of, is just known as a statewide powerhouse. So while you have been recognized as a premier program in Pennsylvania, I just want to share some statistics about Coach Butz-Staven and our team's success. Overall, including this past year, you won 16 state championships. We have 40 district championships and 37 consecutive titles ranging from 1989 to 2025, and 43 conference championships. And so joining us tonight, I'm going to have Coach come up, and she's going to introduce our captains, and then we're going to have our students come up, and we have certificates for you. So Coach Butz-Staven, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Dr. Campbell, thank you, and thank you to the girls for coming out tonight for the recognition. But I'm going to have the pleasure for me to introduce our team captains, Addison Povolitis and Morgan Orbano. They will introduce their team members.
Hello, I'm Addison Povolitis.
Okay, I'm Morgan Orbano.
Okay, so did you want to announce the whole team?
You can just introduce them. You want them to come up forward?
We'd like them all to come up, yes, and then they're going to stay up here and we're going to do a picture with them. I think what I might do is I might do your certificates. I might give them to Coach to give you at the end. We'll see how this works out. I'll do my best to stay on top of it.
Okay, well, I can announce the seniors that are here. So we have Caitlin Carter, Sarah Palazzo, Charlize Solano, Addie Trunkenmiller. Those are the seniors that are here.
And then the juniors, we have Gracie Huffer, Sadie Navarinsky, Elena Rosati, Maddie Lenning, Emily Romano, and Elsie Truckamiller.
And then we have our 2 sophomores that are here, Riley Povolitis and Ella Horner and Avery Aquino.
And then freshmen, Elin Rainford, Bryn Cronin, Zoe Shankwater, and Bridget Aquino.
Awesome, thank you all. And now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have you huddle a little closer, and then we invite our board members to come around as well, and we're gonna do a group picture.
I think I'm actually shorter than most. Heels on. Oh, there you go. Thanks.
Yeah, they can't see you.
Come on.
See, and I have her down on the list. In that way. They did it their way, which is fine. There's just some people that were attendees. So it's like, okay, but I didn't catch them. But I recognized 2 of them. That's okay. They're all here, so one doesn't have one.
Sorry, Michael. It's a big group. Sorry, guys.
I just got some sections out.
Just got half.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're the one who said you were short.
That was karma.
Yeah.
God, I wore it.
All right, and our next student athlete who we're really honored to recognize tonight is Maddie McCartney, who is a senior here at Emmaus High School. She is joined by her coach, Cammie Reinhard. Maddie is the winner of the 2025 Girls AAA State Championship in cross country, finishing first at the state meet with a time of 18 minutes and 17 seconds. So I was going to be cheeky and wear my sneakers tonight and say, like, hey, Maddie, should we race around? But my daughter was like, Mom, don't do it. But I did it anyway. The other amazing piece about Maddie's state title, again, winning a 5K with a time of 18:17, is that she is the first in Emmaus High School history to win a medal, to win the state championship for the PIAA cross country meet. So that is an amazing accomplishment. We know that just like our field hockey team, winning a state meet in cross country, it's not the result of a single race in Hershey on a Saturday morning or afternoon. It's really the product of months, years of discipline, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment. Maddie has won many league and District 11 championships, again, ultimately delivering that win during the state meet at a time perhaps when some could say it mattered most, and that doesn't always happen for athletes in which all things come together like that in the state meet. In addition to her success on the course, she is balancing the demands of training as well as her academics, as I know our girls on the field hockey team do as well. Maddie plans to continue running cross country and track at University of Kentucky, a D1 school, and so she is headed there this summer. We congratulate her on her incredible accomplishments, and I invite Maddie and her coach to come on up. Handle one, yeah. Comments? No? Okay. All right, we're gonna, if the board would come back up, have a smaller group picture we're gonna do. Got it. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Again, I just want to say congratulations to all of our student athletes, the girls field hockey team, Maddie McCartney, and really our coaching staff as well. We're appreciative that both of our head coaches were able to be here. The other final piece that I want to recognize is I do appreciate the family members who are here as part of our audience tonight, as well as I know there are many more at home. I recognize that you, parents, play a critical role in your daughter's success. I know all too well the early mornings, the late nights, the support balancing schoolwork and athletics, and knowing exactly when and how to give feedback after maybe a really critical game. And so you've done a great job sort of in navigating all of that, and we as a school district really appreciate the role that you, our parents, play in the success of your students, both as athletes as well as students here in their coursework. So again, with that, we sincerely appreciate you coming out. We are incredibly proud of you, not only in your sport, but for being incredible young women. And while you are always welcome to stay for the entire board meeting, we absolutely appreciate if you need to head out to move on to other things. So again, thank you for being a part of this evening.
See, lots of homework, is that?
Let them blow out
Given a
for a
pass
sec.
tonight.
Okay.
Board says.
Yeah. Your homework pass.
I get extra credit.
For these flyers.
All of a sudden, I don't feel so popular anymore.
Poor mom. No,
All right, moving on back to business. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our February 23rd meeting.
Public comments,
there is none. Four.
if there's any comment from the public,
For the,
do that. See,
for the student.
yeah, ask if there's any, there were no board comments, no requests, there were no requests.
There were no requests, I'm sorry. My apologies. Janine had informed me we don't have any requests tonight, but for the record, we have no public comment this evening. Now moving on. For the approval of our minutes, the next item on the agenda for our February 23rd board meeting, may I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson,
Aye.
Perez,
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right, and moving to our next item, handing it over to Dr. Campbell for her report on a district update.
Following the recognition of our fall state athletes, I also wanted to congratulate several winter teams from our winter sports, as well as individuals who just this past weekend competed in the PIAA state playoffs. Specifically, girls basketball won in the first round of state playoffs on Friday night against CB East in a packed house, literally packed, here at home. They, again, had an amazing game, emerged successful, and they are moving on to the second round of playoffs to play Dallastown tomorrow night at Ephrata. Boys wrestling, we had 3 students, Emilio Albany, Zayden Salit, and Tegan Casiola, who competed in the state wrestling tournament this past weekend in Hershey. Emilio earned a 2nd place medal, and Tegan earned an 8th place medal. And finally, we also had Olivia Krupp, who participated in the girls PIAA state wrestling tournament this past weekend. She earned a 4th place medal at that state meet. So again, congratulations to the team and those individuals. And then wishing our swim team a good luck this week. They leave, I believe, Tuesday afternoon for the state team meet, and we have several girls from our girls team: Ellie Bowen, Addie Cornish, Sophia Harmon, Kayla Kenner, Mabry Kraus, Abigail Lyons, and Saria Reddy, and then several from the boys team: Parker Gamler, Roman Herman, Bryce King, Graham Lovett, Reed Lovett, Joe Lyons, Carson Moselle, Nate Peters, Brennan Smith, and Carter Smith. Those individuals, good luck at states this week, and we will be cheering you on. I'd also like to congratulate Emmaus High School and LCTI 9th grade student Nolan Robb. He recently placed 4th in the Innovation Academy at the DECA State Championships that were held in mid-February. So that is an amazing accomplishment, particularly for a 9th grader. Similarly, our Emmaus High School mock trial team earned a 2nd place finish at the District 5 competition, and that is the highest that Emmaus High School team has placed since 2019. Special congratulations to Colin Rowley, Sydney Schott, and Julia Murphy-Peterson for receiving outstanding individual honors as part of that mock trial competition. Our Ire Math Counts team was also lighting it up as well. They placed 6th at the Lehigh Valley Regional Competition. A special recognition goes to Rebecca Wilkes, who placed 10th overall and was named one of the top 3 female competitors for the 2nd consecutive year. And as a result of that accomplishment, she earned a multi-year scholarship to Cedar Crest College. Pretty remarkable. And as always, there are many exciting events ahead for us here in East Penn. A reminder to our current seniors at Emmaus High School: online applications for the scholarship program, the local scholarship program sponsored through the district, is available and has been for about 2 weeks now, and that all applications are due at the end of this week, Friday, March 13th. So if you've not yet checked that out, seniors, please, that is available. We have it linked. Students have access to it through Schoology, and we have it posted to our website as well. We are also very excited to share that the class of 2026 senior spotlight nominations are available and open, I should say. Nominations are open to recognize seniors who've made a meaningful impact through any number of ways: academics, athletics, art, leadership, character. Community members, families are encouraged to submit nominations of a senior that they would like considered for our senior spotlight. I also remind the community that we have a lineup of spring theater performances across the district. Students at Albertus Elementary are performing Beauty and the Beast, March 25th through the 28th. Students at Jefferson Elementary are presenting Princess What's-Her-Name on April 18th. Lower Macungie Middle School is presenting SpongeBob the Musical, March 19th through the 21st. 19th through the 21st. And then Emmaus High School is presenting Jekyll and Hyde, March 23rd through the 29th. We'd also like to remind our community registration is open for kindergarten, and so families who have a student who will be joining us for the first time as a kindergartner next year, we invite you and encourage you to sign up as soon as possible for that kindergarten registration. There are orientation sessions that we actually have planned this spring, and so we need students to be registered so that we can then invite you to those orientation sessions that begin this spring and again also continue late summer into next school year. And then the final reminder or announcement that I have is, as the community likely knows, this Friday, we have our Shave for the Brave event at the Emmaus High School Gymnasium starting at 5 p.m. Through our partnership with St. Baldrick's Foundation, this event will support pediatric cancer research. I am always incredibly proud and humbled when I share the statistic that we've had 8 head shaving events here at Emmaus High School, and we've raised over $600,000 for kids' cancer research. And so for anyone who perhaps has, or if you have not ever experienced one of the events, I think many would agree that it's really life-changing and just one of those times when you are surrounded by a community and feel such support from a community, and it really sort of epitomizes all the strengths of the East Penn community. So please consider joining us this Friday at 5 p.m. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Any comments or questions?
Yeah,
Dr.
I
Whitney?
just would like to say I had the privilege of stopping by on Saturday to the International Fair at the high school, and I just want to say what an incredible event that was. Packed cafeteria, so many different countries represented, and so many different backgrounds represented, and it just really underscored for me the global diversity of our East Penn community and how incredibly important that is to keeping us vibrant. And I just had great conversations with students. Some of them were born here and their parents were born elsewhere. Some of them were born elsewhere and moved here recently, some when they were 5 or 6 or 7. But it just, again, goes to show what a wonderful community we have. And it was great to see all of the countries highlighted and represented there. So I encourage everyone to go to that event next year. Thanks.
Yes.
Just to follow what Dr. Campbell was saying about the Shea for the Brave, there was a really nice article on the front page of the Morning Call today about the Friday event. So it's always a great day.
Awesome. Anything else? All right. And my last comment is this. I have my tickets to Jekyll and Hyde, and I'm very excited. So good things coming. Moving on, next on our agenda, under curriculum, we'll begin with item 4A. For educational conferences, I'd like to take a motion to approve the educational conferences as listed in the exhibit.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any comments or questions? All right, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Dr. Perez?
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. And next, under item B, is informational, an informational item. Specifically, administration has a presentation that we'll be seeing for the K through 12 guidance plan under chapter 339. And so I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Campbell.
Yes, and I have the great pleasure of introducing Mrs. Carolla, who our board and our community, likely if you tuned in last meeting, you know that we provided you an overview of the K-8 guidance curriculum. We have some members from our team that was involved in this great work joining us this evening. And so again, appreciative, and we'll turn things over to Jen Carolla.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for the introduction, and good evening, board. As Dr. Campbell said, it's great to be back presenting another aspect of our counseling program. This evening, I have 3 other members of our team who are here to present with me. You may recognize the familiar face of Dr. Susan Fuller. She is our K-8 Counseling Department Chair. She was with us in the last board meeting, and also the school counselor at Jefferson Elementary. Joining Dr. Fuller and myself is Mrs. Jennifer Sortis from Macungie Elementary, school counselor, and Mrs. Diana Woodard from West Coastville, also a school counselor. So we're pleased to have them this evening. Tonight's agenda will introduce you to our counseling team, provide an overview of Chapter 339, talk about the specific components of the plan, discuss CCR evidence, detail our Chapter 339 goals for the next 3 school years, and also introduce the role of the Career Advisory Council. The plan that we are sharing tonight was developed over the course of the past year, and it had input from all of our K-12 counseling team. We have a team, as evidenced in front of you on the slide, of 24 certified professional school counselors who serve our students in each of our 10 buildings, as well as our virtual learning program, VESPA. Our 2 counseling department chairs, Mrs. Kristen Grimm and Dr. Susan Fuller, have been instrumental in guiding this work with 339 and with their counseling colleagues, and they have been absolutely essential in the compiling of this information for submission to the state. Everything you will hear this evening was developed to align with our counseling department's mission statement. The mission is to support all of our students by providing a comprehensive developmental program with the primary goal of helping students acquire personal, social, academic, and the career competencies. So what is Chapter 339? Pennsylvania's Chapter 339 regulations require every district to maintain a comprehensive K-12 school counseling and guidance plan that supports students in 3 main domains: academic development, career development, and personal social growth. The purpose of the plan is to ensure that counseling services are delivered systematically, comprehensively, and equitably to all students. We help them to develop the knowledge, the skills, and the overall experiences necessary to help them be successful post-secondary. Our plan, as well as any 339 plan, is reviewed and revised every 3 years, and it's submitted to the state for approval. The plan must align with the Pennsylvania Career and Education Work Standards. However, it does extend far beyond just the collection of career evidence and really encompasses a much more comprehensive approach to initiatives. Dr. Susan Fuller will now introduce the required components of the plan.
Good evening, once again. Before I get started, I wanted to offer an interesting fact. Pennsylvania is the only state in the country which doesn't require school counselors or have a defined school counseling program. So even though there are lots of folks at the state level working on this, to change this, the 339 plan is currently the place in Pennsylvania where our school counselor responsibilities and career planning live. The K-12 guidance plan is made up of 9 components, which I will briefly review here. The plan not only encompasses our efforts to help students meet career and post-secondary readiness, but also includes components of our role. So section number 1 includes the school counselor curriculum, role, and responsibilities and events which occur each month in our annual school counseling program calendar. This falls under the career and technical curricula. Section number 2 is the educational career plan. This section describes how we collect the required career artifacts or evidence of career education K-11. In section 3, occupational information, this is a non-exhaustive list of diverse external resources organized by national career clusters. Career clusters are just a way to organize careers to make them easier to discuss with our students. For example, a career cluster would be the Healthcare and Human Services career cluster, which includes all types of careers falling into that category. Section 4 is cumulative records. Each level, as you will hear in a little bit, has an annual SMART goal in each of the 3 domains: academic, career, and personal social. Section 5 is the orientation to career and technical options. This is a listing of career guidance services, activities organized by grade level that increase awareness of career and technical options. For us, in particular, that's Lehigh Career and Technical Institute, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Section 6 is career placement transition services. These are services for all students for placement from school to work, college, and military. Section 7 outlines how we consult with teachers and administrators and how our school counseling program delivers direct and indirect student services. So for those not familiar, direct student services are those services we do with students directly in front of us, and indirect student services are those services that we do with other adults on behalf of students, such as collaboration and consultation and referrals to outside agencies. So our goal is always to have 80% of our school counselor time in direct and indirect service, and 20% of our time in program planning and school support. Section 8 is stakeholder involvement. This is our annual advisory council meeting, which we held in January, And our advisory council is made up of community members, parents, teachers, school counselors, of course, administrators, and students. And Section 9 of the K-12 339 plan is follow-up studies, how we will review data to determine service and program effectiveness. So what are the key benefits of Chapter 339? Number one, it shows we are working diligently to build student success skills from early on as kindergarten. We highlighted a little bit of this last time when we were here when we talked about our K-8 school counseling curriculum. Number two, the Chapter 339 ensures early and consistent exposure to career and technical education pathways via our lessons and career events, which also includes our fifth graders have an LCTI presentation and a visit to LCTI in fifth grade. Our seventh graders have a presentation from LCTI, and they also visit LCTI again in eighth grade. Number three, it guarantees personalized planning through individual academic and career plans. And number four, finally, it helps to strengthen connections between learning and future careers. As a K-12 school counseling team, we took much care and detail to make certain our Chapter 339 plan encompasses all we do in the area of career and post-secondary readiness, and as school counselors, how we support all students throughout their journey to graduation and beyond.
The data points referenced on this slide really reinforce the importance of providing multiple pathways and preparation options as part of the development of our plan to ensure that all students are supported regardless of the direction that they choose to pursue after high school. Looking at our class of 2025 outcomes, we do see a range of post-secondary pathways pursued by our graduates. Approximately 64 of our students chose to pursue four-year colleges, 16% to attend two-year colleges, nearly 8% entering the workforce, almost 2.5% entering the military. And at the time that this survey was taken, about 4.5% of our students reported they were undecided, perhaps still waiting on securing a job at the time or a program placement or even potentially taking a gap year. This data has remained relatively consistent over the course of the last 5 years. Actually, the most notable shift occurred between 2024 and 2025, with about a 4 to 5% increase in students choosing two-year colleges over four-year colleges. So there's many factors that may contribute to that change. Certainly things like economic considerations, different workforce trends that are emerging, a desire to stay closer to home. And I think the other thing to note here is the strength of our local community college options that we have here in the Valley. Obviously, post-secondary planning does not start with the senior year decision-making, and so Diana is going to introduce how students are exposed to college and career readiness from the time they enter the school district.
Hi, sorry. As part of this K-12 guidance plan, we are required to collect pieces of college and career readiness evidence. We collect these pieces of evidence at 5th, 8th, and 11th grades, and they are a component of each building's Future Ready Index score. Evidence is collected in a variety of ways, such as through guidance, classroom teacher lessons, and counselor-led activities. We also hold career days and host career speakers where students are exposed to a variety of careers through each level K-12. These collected pieces of evidence need to be aligned to the career, to the career education and work standards. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Sorry. These standards have recently been revised for the first time since 2006. These revisions include different strands than the previous career education and work standards. The update places greater emphasis on employability skills, financial literacy, real-world career readiness, and entrepreneur integration.
In the previous standards, entrepreneurship had its own strand, but now those skills such as problem solving, being a self-starter, creativity, decision-making skills are being integrated throughout the new strands. As we prepare for the transition to the new CEW standards in July, we continue to review where the standards are already embedded in our programming and identify opportunities to build on our college and career readiness work.
Career readiness develops progressively K through 12. And so at the high school level, at minimum, our students are required to have 8 pieces of career evidence. This includes the individual career plan required by the state, and this is all completed by the end of 11th grade. These artifacts must address each of the 4 career standards, career education and work standards that Diana just spoke about. At the high school level, pieces of evidence are collected through coursework that students are taking. So every course has embedded in it a college and career readiness piece. This really helps students to connect their goals with the academic learning that is taking place in the classroom and make those real-world application of the skills. This structure really helps the individual student plan to evolve over time in those years, and the students do revisit and revise that individual plan during each of their student meetings.
At the middle school level, 6 required pieces of evidence are needed by the end of 8th grade. Evidence is collected through classroom assignments and counselor-led lessons. All students have the opportunity to tour LCTI in 8th grade, and they also have the 7th grade presentation that I mentioned before. And an initial individual career plan is developed by the end of 8th grade with the school counselors.
So at the elementary level, most of this was outlined previously, but this is showing how we're supporting career awareness at the elementary level. Between grades 3 and 5, students will complete the 6 required pieces of career evidence, which are collected through classroom lessons led by our school counselors. In 5th grade, students also attend a presentation and then a tour with LCTI to begin learning about future career and technical opportunities. And even in the earlier grades, kindergarten through 2nd grade, students are participating in counselor lessons that introduce and explore different careers.
So as a result of all the efforts just mentioned, our district's performance on the Future Ready Index Career Standards Benchmarks reflects really strong student participation in our career readiness programming. Across the district, our buildings report 100% or very close to that percentage of completion rates, and this is exceeding both the statewide average of 91.5% as well as the statewide performance standard of 98%. We talked a lot about post-secondary planning up to this point, but as mentioned in the beginning, this plan really is intended to establish annual goals in all 3 counseling domains, that academic, career, and personal social domain. So at the high school level, these are the proposed goals for the new plan for the next 3 years, focusing on successful transition beyond graduation. In the academic domain, the high school team is looking to support and provide the guidance needed to maintain a graduation rate of 95% annually. In the career domain, we will continue to strive for 100% completion of the career evidence, again, exposing students to different pathways and options. And in the personal social domain, we would like to target a 74 percentage points of students who feel a sense of belonging as identified in the social emotional learning surveys administered in both the fall and then the follow-up in the spring.
The middle level goals, the academic goal is to improve attendance for students identified as chronically absent, which is 10% or more absences in the prior or previous school year. And the goal is improving the attendance of those kids to 90%. Career goal, all students will complete their required 6 career artifacts. And then the personal social goal focuses on 2 standardized social emotional learning common assessments completed by 100% of students, and will provide data to ensure alignment of the comprehensive school counseling program and practices across the district, which we highlighted last board meeting for you all.
And just to briefly highlight the focus areas in the elementary goals, first, we're continuing to work on improving student attendance with the goal of having all students attend at least 90% of the school year. We'll review attendance data so that we can monitor progress and identify students who might need additional support, allowing us to implement targeted interventions when needed. We're also ensuring that all students complete the 6 required career artifacts that we've mentioned, aligned with Pennsylvania's career education and work standards by the end of 5th grade to help build that early career awareness. And finally, all students will complete 2 standardized social and emotional learning assessments. The data from these will help us to ensure that our comprehensive school counseling program remains consistent and aligned throughout the district.
All of this work that you've heard in tonight's presentation requires not just the input, but actually the commitment from many different stakeholders groups. Because of that, this plan is supported by the Career Advisory Council, which is required for each district to maintain. The Advisory Council meets at minimum once annually and is comprised of stakeholder groups such as counselors, administrators, teachers, community business representatives, higher ed representatives, as well as CTE representatives. We hosted our Counselor Advisory Council about a couple of months ago, and so some of the takeaways, or I should say 3 main takeaways that emerged from that Advisory Council was a very positive response overwhelmingly from the group regarding the early and ongoing career exposure K-12. There was emphasis placed on the fact that career exposure started so young. The next thing that emerged from that conversation was feedback suggesting how we inform families, parents, guardians about all these amazing opportunities that exist and that our students have access to. And the conversation really centered around how do we make getting that information more manageable for families when it comes from such a variety of sources. So that's certainly something we'll continue to look at and consider. The third piece came mostly from our community and higher ed partnerships, just this continued commitment and desire to expand our partnerships between district and business and higher ed to expose students and to give them the skills necessary to give them that leg up prior to even leaving their K-12 experience. So in closing, the Chapter 339 guidance plan truly does reflect a comprehensive K-12 approach to preparing students for academically, socially, and professionally pursuing life beyond high school and the district. Through the aligned counseling program and all the career readiness experiences our students have access to, we will continue to support students in developing those skills and the plans necessary for their future success, as individualized as that may be. So thank you for your attention this evening, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Mr. Jankowski.
All right. Thank you all for the presentation. I think this plan makes a lot of sense, and it's good to see that we've got it in place from K through 12. I've got a number of questions just regarding how it works and what we're actually doing. So how do we transition from counselors from the elementary to the middle to the high school to make sure that the students are kind of getting the direction that they need in that we're able to identify maybe some curiosities or trends that maybe we're seeing with the students as they're getting older that might change the direction where they might want to head post-graduation?
Sure, it's a great question. I think I'll start with just what the counselor to student relationship looks like at each of the levels. So in our elementary levels, there is one counselor in each of our elementary buildings. At the middle level, our counselors follow a class or a cohort. So they'll take on the 6th graders, move with the 7th graders, then to the 8th graders. And then at the high school level, it's divided by alphabet. So students at the high school maintain their counselor for all 4 years. And so to answer the question of how that exchange of information happens and how do we encourage continued pursuit of interest and abilities of skills, the first step of that process is ensuring that we have strong transition programs in place to transfer information from each level to the next level's counselor. And so those transition meetings happen between counselors as well as other members of the school teams at the end of the 5th grade year and then again at the end of the 8th grade year. So there is some sharing of information at that point in time. Also, the student information, all the students' career evidence from elementary is housed in a Google folder, which then follows them up through, so they continue to have access to that information. And then once they hit the secondary level in middle school, that information is housed and maintained in Schoology, where they can continue to have access to that up through their senior year of high school. So also, the career individualized plan begins at the middle level and then is further developed as they get into the high school. So the high school's plan actually asks the student to go back and reference the middle school plan and then to develop that further out in more detail. So now you had general ideas leaving middle school. What does that actually look like as you enter high school? How does that transfer to the courses that you're selecting? What other goals do you have for yourself specifically related to those courses? So we do try to make sure that there is consistency and cohesiveness throughout. Certainly something we continue to look at, though, to make sure we're not losing really essential components that really help develop the students' interests and abilities.
All right, so my next couple of questions are all interrelated, so hopefully you can follow the bouncing ball and we'll get to
It's a test.
a rational comment from me. So slide 9, the college career readiness data. Do we have, not that one, I'm sorry, the one that has like the 4-year, 2-year employment
sure. Okay.
military. Do we have any benchmarks on how that compares to like peer schools or other schools that are similarly sized and demographics as ours?
I don't have that readily available here tonight, but I'm sure that that information is available. It's often housed publicly on district school profiles, so we can certainly pull some of that information.
So then why I ask kind of relates to the next slide that you had up there, slide 15. So one of my concerns with sometimes with students and how they're being pushed, not necessarily by the school, but by external influences, parents, friends, guardians, is, there's always a sense that I've got to go to a 4-year college, or I've got to, be a professional. I got to do something. And a lot of times I've seen there's a stigma that's associated with, working in a craft after school, going to LCTI, and, from my perspective, I think probably everyone's perspective is those are a doctor, a lawyer, an electrician, those are all equally important jobs and deserve the equal amount of respect and appreciation for what they do. My concern, though, is that, you look at the numbers and how many students are kind of just giving canned responses because that's what their parents want, that's what their friends want, but maybe they're not interested in doing going to a college after, or maybe community college is better. How involved are we getting to try to steer these kids down the right path? Speaking with their parents and making sure that they're not making the wrong decision for them based on these societal factors, and that they're doing what they really want to do and what they may be fantastic at doing. Are we just checking the box and saying, all right, you took the test, look at these numbers, they're great? Or are we actually saying like, hey, mom and dad, do you want to meet, Billy or Jen might, they're talking about college, but, we noticed, or teachers noticed that they have a real interest in maybe this, and maybe this might be a better path for them. I mean, are we really helping steer these these students correctly so that they're going to get a satisfying and fulfilling post-graduation, career?
I really appreciate that question and statement, and I think you've hit on a passion point of our entire counseling team. And the work is tireless to destigmatize the fact that there is not just one option after post-secondary. And so that really is embedded in all of the work that we do. When we talk about these numbers up here, I just want to draw attention to this is a compilation of ensuring that our students have gotten the minimum required pieces of evidence. And those pieces of evidence, which we didn't go into great detail with, but those are really pieces of evidence that ask students to individually explore their interest. Based on those interests, what jobs might align with those interests? What am I really good at? What jobs might align with that? If I wanted to do a certain job, what do I need to do? So it's a very non-biased approach to delivering college and career readiness. And so our goal as a counseling team is to continue to present all options to help students sort through what is best for themselves. And I think the follow-up to that, to your questions was, how do we continue to educate parents that there are a lot of different options and really, quite frankly, great options out there. And so I think that that's continued communication of changes in workforce trends, number one. We have in the past had career panel speakers come in and invited parents, continuing to educate them as well as the students on all the opportunities that exist, but maybe they're just not aware of. And furthermore, I think that the emphasis that we've placed on exposing students to LCTI at such an early age and really enforcing the incredible program offerings that they have available to them, it's getting them so excited in those early years to see the possibilities that exist longer term, and then continuing to reinforce that through the middle level by saying everybody is going, right? We're not just taking certain groups of students to go and see the school again. Everybody is going because they have programs that can appeal to the masses. So I don't think it's a perfect system, and I think we continue to put our heads together to figure out how do we continue to get parents to understand all the options. And I will say that that probably cycles back to one of those stakeholders' questions of how do we get all of the information out in a much more digestible and manageable way for our families.
And teachers are an important job, too.
Absolutely. Yep.
Just kidding. I'm done.
Mr. Kelly?
I have a follow-up question to go off of what we were just talking about. The benchmarks, the piece of evidence, the resumes they put together. Are we doing that all through Naviance?
There is emphasis on Naviance. There is a resume component of Naviance, which I know actually is happening in a department at the high school. The English department is having the students complete the resume in Naviance. But all of our targeted efforts are not solely reliant on Naviance.
So I guess my question is, we're talking about communication and communication with home, and it just made me kind of think of, are there ways of sharing those benchmarks, those pieces of evidence with the families so that they can have those, they can kind of see what their child is thinking and start to have conversations with them regarding what they've actually put down?
Yes, I know for a fact at the elementary level, students have access, or parents, excuse me, have access to the digital journals in Seesaw, and those pieces of evidence are located in there so they can access. And to be honest, I don't know what the access for parents at secondary level looks like, so that's certainly something we can look into.
Okay, and so the Schoology, or the Seesaw is a separate journal within Seesaw that they meet?
Hi there.
Hi.
For elementary, one of the options that we use is Seesaw, which is a communication program that we can do activities on with kids, but also their parents can see what they're doing with those activities. So when I do my career lessons with my kiddos at Jefferson, we post the career lessons and their artifacts right on there, and then the parents can see everything they wrote down and everything they did. And so many parents actually comment on it and are excited about it, and refer to those activities. So.
And that's done through their teacher Seesaw.
Seesaw can be set up, like a teacher can have their class in a seesaw class, but I can have a class as well. So they can fall under my class as the school counselor, and that's where I house all the career
Okay.
stuff in
All
there.
right.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's cool. I had one other question, and on slide 9, the data that we have of the 2025 graduates, is there any sort of movement or work being done even nationally to track students beyond high school and beyond just a single year and see how effective their personality tests and their compatibility stuff that they're filling out actually is?
There is a national database that can pull some level of tracking information up to a certain point for students who go on to four-year colleges. But outside of that, I can't say that there is another resource that would track in totality all of these different post-secondary options.
Yeah, okay. I'm just curious. Thanks.
Sure.
Dr. Levinson.
Thank you. While this slide is up here, I'm just wondering, those numbers add up to 95.5%. What's the remaining 4.5%?
I can get those exact numbers for you.
Maybe you didn't get a response, or I'm not sure, but I'd just be curious what's going on with them. Sorry. So actually, I have two areas of question. The first, I really like what I saw with this plan. I think it's comprehensive. I think it's going to work very well to integrate everything we do from K to 12. But we did mention that, or you did mention that, this type of guidance plan is something that every district in Pennsylvania has to submit. I'm curious what the team here feels distinguishes this plan from what everybody else is submitting in the state.
I will certainly let my team answer, but at least from my perspective for this particular plan, we really highlighted this last board meeting, the K-8 counseling curriculum, and how that is embedded in this plan. And I think that is a real celebration of this plan for moving into the next 3 years. So I do think that that's a component that differentiates this plan from maybe other districts who are just going through a box checking motion to have to submit something. We really did intentionally K-12 look at our previous plan and identify those areas where we need to make improvement and continuous improvement and figure out how we do that and how we put that in writing to hold ourselves accountable for delivering that. So that would be my answer, but I would certainly welcome my team to answer that as well.
I would say one of the primary differences would be the goals that each district has based on their own student data. Their goals are going to be different and maybe also like the counselor roles and responsibilities depending on what their district holds valuable as far as what their school counselors do, and of course the curriculum as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I mean, I might also add that I think part of what can make any plan successful is obviously going to be the quality and the attention that the team brings. So if you have a solid team, that's going to be a distinguishing factor as well. Last question. I'm interested in hearing more about the Career Advisory Council. How many people are involved with that? Or what's the size of the council?
This year's council was approximately 15 people. I would say 15 to 17 people. There were more invited, not all could attend. And so in order to get that stakeholder group, we went off of some previous advisory councils, also looking to bring in some new membership. And then from there, we hope to and plan to continue to grow and expand because we really do get great feedback from that. Also thinking about outside of just the Career Advisory Council, is there a way for our counseling group to also have other engagement groups with stakeholders beyond just what the plan you have in front of you here is, in order to get their input and their lens through which they're viewing our program?
Because I think the strength of having the council is probably in getting a diversity of stakeholders, but also getting them to attend. I think you answered it in part as, how do you go about recruiting for this council? And I don't know to what extent you've interacted with LCTI, for instance, which has a very large occupational advisory council who might be able to help, find community, business stakeholders that might be able to contribute. And again, I don't know whether you're looking for stakeholders who are in the immediate area of East Penn or whether they can be in a slightly larger radius, but I think, finding a diverse and large enough group is probably going to enhance the quality of that. But again, those who did attend, I think the takeaways that came from the discussion here are solid and certainly something to build on. All right. Well, as I said before, I think this is a good plan, very good plan, has a lot of great elements, and look forward to seeing how it plays out over the next few years.
Thanks for the feedback.
Ms. Klotz?
Two things, I'll be brief. First, great presentation. This is very exciting in conjunction, especially with what's coming later. So really excited about that as well. This is really more of a comment. And for Mr. Jankowski, you were talking about LCTI, and we were kind of talking about how there had been kind of like a, oh my gosh, I can't remember the word. LCTI wasn't a preferred way, avenue for school. Well, shameless plug here, I have to say. So LCTI has had a record number of applicants for the upcoming year, so that's fantastic. And also on the board last month, actually, the JOC. So the student who presented was amazing. She's a sophomore, and she is studying, I believe it was electrical engineering. Is that right, Dr. Jankowski? I think it was electrical and computer engineering.
Well, I'm Dr. Levinson.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They're so similar.
It was electronics.
So she was amazing. And so Dr. Levinson, I was looking at Jeff there, so, but anyway, so she's amazing, and she's actually looking to continue her education onto MIT and to another school, I can't remember. But so I think that that attitude about LCTI does seem to be turning, and it's getting out there, so.
Thank you.
Shameless plug.
All right. Dr. Whitney?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. So, I have a few thoughts, and some of my questions were already asked, so I'll try to be brief here. But, I recognize, this whole framework is a state-regulated thing, and it somewhat limits, what we're able to, how we're able to define things. I also know the research tells us, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, all of you, that our graduates are going to be working 12 to 15 jobs in their working lives, the majority of which haven't even been invented yet. And so I heard mention briefly of entrepreneurial skills, problem-solving skills that were embedded within the curriculum, and I'm just curious if you could expand on that. How are we teaching sort of an entrepreneurial mindset, first of all?
Right, so what was referenced was in the former Career and Education Work Standards developed in 2006, one of the actual strands was entrepreneurship. So it was separate and apart from the other three. With the revamp of the new standards going live 2026 July, entrepreneurship is no longer a standalone strand. They have integrated the skills of entrepreneurship into each of the other strands. So again, recognizing the importance that it's not just I want to be in entrepreneurship, but the mindset, the skill set, that it is critical to have those regardless of whether you choose to go out on your own or you pursue some other pathway. So there is a real intensity around communication, teamwork, problem solving, and so all of those pieces are now embedded throughout the strand. So it's not just if you're not getting the entrepreneur strand today, you're not going to talk about those skills. And to further that, I know you had made mention, employability skills are going to be essential to change careers 10, 15 times. And so that was, again, another focus of the new standards to say it's not good enough just to learn one skill set or one type of skill. We really need to expand our students' knowledge and expand our students' ability to transition between things and to be flexible thinkers, and then to be able to know how to apply all of this to whatever field they end up in.
That's great.
And so that's a real celebration, I think, with the newly revamped standards.
Yeah, okay. And they, in this case, is Department of Ed, Pennsylvania
Correct.
Department. Okay, wonderful. So along those lines, I've heard this term career artifacts now for my 4+ years on the board, and I still don't quite understand what they are. Can you give me some specific examples of what career artifacts are and why they're defined as career artifacts?
Yes, and honestly, there are a vast number of artifacts out there and available. So it could be something as simple as, I shouldn't say simple, but it could be a resume or developing a cover letter. It could be an activity where students take an interest inventory and then they self-reflect and think about, what does this mean? How does it transfer? It could be planning a budget for themselves, or picking a career and backwards planning. Well, what would that mean? How much would I have for housing? How much would I have to spend on food? So it could be financial literacy. In the former entrepreneurship plan, it could be, let me develop a business. And I know our elementary team does that lesson with all of our elementary students, and they develop their own businesses. I want to give credit and time to that if someone wants to speak to it. Jen can speak to it.
Yeah. Speak on
It's
it.
one of my favorite lessons, actually. I love, particularly in elementary, how we build on, we're talking about being a good listener and an active listener in 3rd grade, and doing some interviews with fellow students, and then they have an assignment they can take home and do an interview with somebody that they know and ask them about their job and some questions like that, what skills they might need to pursue that particular job. And we transition in 4th grade to talking about career values and what are values, what's important to us, and how does that align with maybe the careers we're interested in. And so they're asked those questions to think about, what's important if I want that career, and this is important to me, do they match? And it's a really interesting conversation, as you can imagine, because sometimes they definitely do not match. So we have to talk through that. But in entrepreneurship, we talk about what that means. What is an entrepreneur? What skills do you need to do that? What's the market? Who are your target audience? Are you offering a purpose or a product or a good or service? And what's the difference? And then we go through the whole thing about a lemonade stand, which, sometimes they remember that you need to buy lemonade, not always. So we really break it down to what do you need if you're going to set up a lemonade stand? And where are you getting those materials, right? And we continue, how are you marketing it? What does your customer service attitude look like? All kinds of things like that. And then they have an assignment to create a big idea about their particular business, and it cannot be a lemonade stand. We do get a lot of other kind of hot dog stands and things like that, as you can imagine, but we try to think about, what is something you really care about, what's your passion and purpose, and how does that translate into a profit? So that's kind of an example of many throughout 3, 4, and 5.
Awesome, thank you. And you just answered my next question, which is, how do we help them connect with their passions and their purpose, right?
Excellent.
And how do we, move that into career choices as well? So that's great. Just one more question, and kind of piggybacking on Mr. Jankowski's comment about LCTI, which I fully respect, and believe me, I'm not a everyone should go to 4-year college kind of person whatsoever. But 2 out of 3 approximately of our graduates are going to a 4-year college at this point, at least. And so I see on paper, at least, there's a lot of emphasis on LCTI, which again, fully respect, and I fully understand why. And I'm glad that the applications are up and the student interest continues to be high. But I'm curious if you could tell me a little about what we do to highlight other types of careers that might result from a 4-year college degree, for instance.
Sure. I mean, First step in that would be identifying all the different college options that are out there, right? Because starting with colleges and looking at majors and all these possibilities. And so as you are all well aware, we have a tremendous college fair that we present annually, which draws a huge audience, not only from our district, but also locally. We have college representatives that visit us. We also, moving into the career aspect, we have a career speaker engagement series. And so every March, that is the highlight, and the calendar is filled with career speakers at the high school where students can come and learn about careers, make those connections. That doesn't just happen at the high school level. There is also a career day at the middle level, and our elementaries also have career days, but it does look a little bit different at the high school, allowing students to focus a little bit more intently on their passions and their interests. And so that piece is all happening in the background, and then through the individual meetings with school counselors, they're also probing students to talk about what are your interests, how can I help you connect your interests to possible careers? Because the reality is, as careers are evolving, sometimes students come with ideas, but they just don't know how to make those connections. And so that is a goal of our school counseling team as they're working through post-secondary planning with students to try to do that. In addition to, as was mentioned, our teachers do that on a regular basis too. You know, we have, if you're really interested in physics and you're connecting with that physics teacher, they're going to help you make a connection to potential career fields. So I'd never want to minimize the fact that I think those conversations are happening very organically on a regular basis, far beyond the scope of what we're even measuring in this plan.
Great, thanks very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Jankowski?
I just want to comment, my fifth grader did that build a business project and with two classmates, and it was a fantastic assignment, and by all accounts, the students were really into it. In fact, I'm like tempted to steal the idea. I'm afraid he'll lawyer up on me.
You didn't know a lawyer.
It was a really good exercise for the kids, and I loved seeing that, and really the thought process and the detail that they were actually tasked with developing for their business. So,
Thank you for that feedback.
Cool.
All right, so before I ask my questions, I want to start with a comment. I happen to be the parent of a student who graduated from Emmaus High School, and I just want to say I wouldn't know what a ASVAB was, and I wouldn't be familiar with DECA if she hadn't have gone through the East Penn School District. And so I got an education as well. And so I know that many of the things that you do are incredibly impactful and responsible for my daughter being so flexible. She has, in her small time on this planet, been a volunteer firefighter. She has went to college. She's also been to boot camps. So she's done a lot of things, and right now she's working 2 jobs. So I look at her and I know that she's really well-rounded and is a beneficiary of these good things. So thank you for what you do. Question-wise, I wanted to kind of know, as far as the Career Advisory Council for the stakeholder involvement, you know, we have thousands of students, and I guess my question is, how is the cross-section of stakeholders created to get a really true pulse of the full demographic? Because I know, you know, as a parent, often when we're particularly soliciting parental input, you know, you have to have the time available to participate. And often that leaves a lot of people out. And so I was just wondering, what is the formula to make sure you're getting a good cross-section of the full breadth of the demographic?
I think that's a really excellent point, and we do try to be very intentional about representation on the committee, making sure that we are bringing in a range of diverse perspectives, because you're absolutely right. Everybody comes with a different lens, and if we're only speaking with one of those particular lenses, we're missing out on tremendous populations of students. So it is a challenge. I stand here before you today to say we continue to work on that, to try to improve it. And I think it's just going to become being creative on ways to engage for families who can't perhaps make a stakeholder meeting at 10 a.m. in the morning. How else might we be able to connect with them? And that really was the conversation that started to emerge after this last advisory council in January, because the feedback was tremendous, and we recognized we need more of it, and we need to connect with groups who perhaps weren't represented at that particular meeting. So I think it's just creative ways on how we connect, and it might not mean a meeting in person at a specific time of day.
Thank you for that. And I was thinking, just my brain, sometimes harnessing the power of other parents to parents is also effective. So my second question and final question goes back to the percentages that were shown. I think it was slide 9.
For the
This one.
graduates? Yep.
So I just had a question in terms of soliciting this data. At the time, is the student just sharing their plans, or they actually have been accepted? For example, for the student who's going into college, have they been accepted to the 4-year or 2-year college? For the person who's going, who has the job, do we know that they have the job, or are we just talking, they're telling you their plans?
The timing of this is at the very end of senior year. So at that point, the plan should be somewhat solidified.
Okay.
Yes. Now, it is self-report. And so I say that I am confident in terms of the 4-year college, because that's how they gain access to their final transcript to send to the college to which they're enrolling. And so they're going to give us accurate information there. My sense is that most students are reporting honestly, given the variation of percentages, but there is not a fact check of having someone present their place of employment or, their military enlisting. So we are going off a self-report.
Got it. I'm asking simply because I'm always wondering what's on the other side of that. Is there a way, and I think this question already came up, of tracking success rate? Are they staying in college? Because that also will reinforce that what you're doing is actually effective and working if we know that they actually completed the 4-year or 2-year college, or the person was successful in the military. They made it through boot camp and, got commissioned to go somewhere. So I was just thinking along those lines, but.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Great information. Really appreciate it. Continue to do the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have one more question.
One more question. Dr. Perez, sorry.
I didn't have a question until
Okay.
you asked a question.
Okay.
First of all, thank you so much for the presentation, the preparation, and all of this, your enthusiasm, all of you, for all the work. I can attest to how much work goes into putting all of this together.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. Follow up to Shanta's, Ms. Ford's question. Do you do any kind of disaggregation of this data to see who's attending 4-year colleges versus 2-year colleges, going into employment, just to take a look at the breakdown of students and see if there's any kind of patterns that are emerging or things that we may need to address as a district to ensure equity and equitable access?
Yeah, we absolutely can drill down into the individual student selecting it, and I am sure that that is happening. I would say we probably aren't drilling down currently to the level that you're suggesting, but certainly good information for us to consider as far as identifying trends and, and even asking certain students questions of the why. We make assumptions as to why they might choose something, but perhaps information that they can share could give us further insight to help them either continue on that path or present other options.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Perez. Thank you again for the presentation. All right, also under curriculum, I would like a motion to approve items 4C, school counseling curriculum, and 4D, instructional resources together, if possible. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
Just one.
Yes, Ms. Cox.
Okay, on the school counseling K-8 curriculum, I did say I was excited about what came next. So I just wanted to point out, Couple things. In kindergarten, P2. Let's see. I'm sorry, I didn't have the page number ready. I should have. Okay. Kindergarten, page 2, excuse me, on the acquisition. Okay, something that I really like, that the students are learning how to say no or stop when something feels wrong or uncomfortable. I think that's wonderful. These skills will just take them throughout life, and it was remarkable to me that they're being taught so early. And in the conversations that I've been having with the younger crowd, I can actually see this coming to fruition and hear it from them, and see how they interact with each other, and it's wonderful. I actually think that we need more of this in just the world, actually, but it's wonderful to see here, and I just kudos. So great job. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other comments? All right, Ms. Allen, if you could take the roll.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Dr. Perez?
Aye.
Mrs. Diavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. And also under curriculum, item 4E, the 2026-27 East Penn School District Student Teacher Calendar. This is an informational item. And I just wanted to ask, does the administration have any updates?
We do not.
Okay, awesome,
Meaning the draft that appears is identical to the draft that appeared at the last meeting.
awesome. Any questions from our board members?
Still not happy about the 2 weeks for Christmas.
Settle down.
I am still happy about that, so.
All right. We will move right along to our budget area. And under item 5A, also informational, and Mr. Saul is going to present for us an overview of the long-range fiscal and capital plan. Thank you, Mr. Saul. Oh, you have it. Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This evening, I would like to provide an overview of the first version of the long-range fiscal and capital plan for the current budget cycle. The purpose of tonight's presentation is primarily to orient the board with the layout and contents of the plan. We'll take a look at a few sections in more detail and other sections at a slightly higher level. And as in past years, much of the information presented tonight serves as a baseline for discussions as we move through the remainder of the budget development process. So as we move through the plan, we have a table of contents. The first section is the introduction. Then there's an overview. I'd like to highlight in the overview that this plan contains the actual audited figures for the past 5 fiscal years, and then includes revenue and expenditure estimates for the current year. Then we have the budgeted revenues and expenditures for the 26-27 fiscal year that were reviewed during the February school board meetings. And then finally, we have budget assumptions and projections for future years. The intent of the plan is to provide a forward-looking view of the district's financial position and to help guide long-term decision-making as the budget process progresses. The first section that I'd like to take a little time to look at is the general fund summary on page 4 and 5. All of the detailed schedules in the remainder of the plan essentially feed through this summary. And so I think it'd be helpful to spend a few minutes reviewing how this is organized. As you look down the left column, you'll notice in bold on row 12, you'll see total revenue. And on row 27, you'll see the anticipated expenditures. And so if we take the total revenues less the anticipated expenditures, on row 29, we would see any surplus or deficit. That is added or subtracted from the beginning fund balance. And then on row 41, you see the total anticipated ending fund balance. Also at the bottom of the page, you'll see some evaluative metrics that are provided there. Those include fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, as well as total fund balance as a number of months of expenditures. Looking across the top of the summary, again, as I highlighted earlier, you'll see that there are 5 years of actual. So in columns B through F, you have actual figures for the previous years. And then in column G, you have the 2025-26 budget, the current year budget that was developed starting last year at this time. And in column H, you have updated estimates of the current year budget that were put together in early January 2026. Continuing on page 5, this is a continuation of the general fund summary. Again, on the left, in column G, you'll see the current year budget, and column H, the estimates that are repeated for easy reference. In column I, you see the 26-27 proposed budget. Again, that's what we reviewed in the previous school board meetings. And just a note of why the numbers, why the financial projections haven't been updated yet, recognizing that school finance can be complex. We intentionally did not revise the 26-27 budget in this version of the plan. This allows the board to either reacquaint, if you've looked at this in the past, or become familiar with the plan while maintaining continuity with the information that was presented in the prior presentation. So you'd be able to take those presentations and draw the direct connections to the information in this plan. Finally, I'll direct your attention to the last 4 columns, which contain projected budgets for the 27-28 through 2030-31 fiscal years. These predictions are based on a series of assumptions that we'll review this evening and are intended to help guide decision-making. Much of the remainder of the plan provides the detail that supports this 2-page summary. I want to emphasize that these projections are not intended to represent final budgets. Rather, they illustrate financial trajectory of the school district if current trends continue and no adjustments are made. These projections are not intended to be to predict the future, but rather illustrate how current trends may affect the district's financial position over time. This allows us to evaluate long-term sustainability and better understand the impact of potential decisions. As discussed in previous presentations, the district is currently projecting a structural gap of approximately $2.1 million for 26-27 fiscal year, but also as stated previously, we have already identified revisions that will help close that gap. Under this baseline model, the annual gap gradually increases in future years, primarily due to the projected expenditure growth exceeding the revenue growth. Again, these projections assume no changes in spending levels or taxation decisions overall. And what I mean by spending levels is implementation of new programs, and intend to serve as a starting point for discussions. As we proceed through the plan, the next section is the assumptions section. The assumptions outlined the assumptions under which the future years of the plan have been developed. Preparing a long-range plan does require making these assumptions, and they're regarding key factors. Some of those include real estate tax growth, state funding levels, wage increases under labor agreements, and healthcare cost trends. Even relatively small changes in these assumptions, especially those which are of significant size, can affect the long-term projections, which is why the plan should be viewed as a planning tool rather than a fixed forecast. As those of you who have followed this in the past know, as we make updates to the budget, we update this tool, and it can have significant changes in the future years of the projections. Briefly, I'd like to review the assumptions chart here. If you look across the top in columns D through H, you'll see those are year-over-year changes comparing the prior year to the following year. In column I want to call this out because this compares the 24-25 actual to the 25-26 revised budget. So it's the budget numbers that we put together in January for the current year, which are, for all intents and purposes, more accurate than our original budget. And then in column J, it's the 25-26 revised budget compared to the estimated 26-27 budget. Again, it just gives us a few more years to average out what has been occurring. In most cases, we've applied the historical average of change to the future years, but there are a few exceptions, and I'd like to highlight those exceptions. If you look at the chart, interim real estate taxes, you'll notice the average is roughly 11%, but if you look at the future projections, they're 0. The historical change in interim real estate taxes shows volatility, so if you look back over the years, it's really volatile as a revenue source, and we felt it was prudent to apply 0% increase moving forward. Again, this is something we continue to evaluate as we look at the current year and we update those projections, but at this point, we felt that it was prudent to put in 0. Interest income, again, given the interest rate uncertainty moving forward, we felt it was prudent to maintain the 26-27 estimate of interest income moving forward. Transportation subsidy, again, doesn't follow the trend. That's because transportation subsidy revenue is based on the actual transportation expenditures. Therefore, we use the estimated transportation expenditure increases to apply to the revenue line item. For Ready to Learn grant, in recent years, additional state subsidy has been allocated to the school district through the Ready to Learn grant adequacy supplement rather than through basic education or special education funding lines. Basic education and special education have been increased some, but not as much. Primarily, it's been funded through the adequacy supplement. However, we believe that the percentage increases applied to basic education subsidy and special education subsidy adequately account for the actual Ready to Learn funds that will be received. Again, if you look in early years in the plan, that's where the money was primarily coming through. On the expenditure side, if you look at district-wide instruction, you'll notice that the future trend is somewhat lower. The historical amount for this category includes some one-time expenditures and one-time adjustments that are inflating the historical change percentage, such as a change in the governmental accounting standards where we had to reclassify equipment leases, and that picked up some additional expense in certain years. Student teacher stipends, which were one-time expenditures, grant spending, which is one-time expenditures. We've estimated that the actual total moving forward will be closer to 3.5%. Community college tuition, each year, Mrs. Thompson's here this evening, she comes and explains to us that the community college does a very good job of trying to be as close to 0 as possible. And so, again, you can see that it's always very close to 0, but moving forward, we just put a 0% increase in there. And then finally, transportation costs, we applied the anticipated contractual increase of 4%. Because if you look historically, each time we've renewed the contract, we have a higher percentage. And so that skews the overall percentage in averaging. Moving next, the next section is the millage impact and the revenues. On the real estate tax rate calculation screen, if you look at column E, which has the bars on each side of it, in rows 41 to 48. That's the millage rate calculation that we reviewed during the revenue presentation, so that should look relatively familiar. As noted in the plan, the future Act 1 index projections that are in row 7, columns F through I, so those future years, are taken from the annual report published by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Independent Fiscal Office. Each year they undertake an activity to estimate what the Act 1 index will be in future years. And if you look at the future years, the projected statewide Act 1 index is applied in future years. So again, that's the statewide index, not an adjusted index for East Penn School District. On the next page, you'll see the millage rate history. Again, during the revenue presentation, we presented the millage rate history chart, as well as the 5-year and 10-year averages. Additionally, here you'll see the historical real estate tax rate chart at the bottom for East Penn School District. On slides 11 and 12, you can see the breakdown of revenue. I'm not going to go into that in detail. And then moving on to the next section is expenditures. Expenditures is broken down into several pieces. First, I'd like to highlight the salary section. If you look on the second page of salaries, page 15, in the middle of the page, you'll see that rows 25 to 29 contain the salary increase assumptions for each labor group as a whole. And the cells that have boxes around them represent the time frame for labor agreements that are currently in place. So if it has a box around it, you can see how far out those current labor agreements are in place. Moving on to the next expenditure category of benefits. One of the most significant factors affecting the district's financial outlook is continued growth in healthcare costs. We talked about this at the last board meeting. Based on current projections, group insurance costs are expected to increase substantially over the next several years. Healthcare costs remain one of the largest drivers of expenditure growth and will continue to be an important factor to consider in long-term planning. Healthcare already represents one of the largest components of the district's benefit costs, and under the current assumptions, it continues to becomes a major driver of expenditure growth in the future. The next sections are broken down into district-wide instructional costs, district-wide non-instructional costs, and then debt service expenses. I'd like to recall that we just looked at salaries and benefits. So what these next 2 or 3 sections represent are non-salary, non-benefit expenditures. So those would be things like products and services. In addition to having the breakdown here for those on the district-wide instructional for the expenditures at the top, at the bottom, we have included some breakouts, specifically special education, where we've added all the special education line items so you can see a total for special education expenses. Our charter school totals, because they're at the top, they're broken down between regular education and special education. And then we've taken that charter school total and broken it into brick and mortar and cyber charter. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, through accounting, requires us to break it out by regular education and special education. There is no requirement to track by brick and mortar and cyber. So we do that sort of manually in order to provide it to the board in this document. Moving to the final section in the expenditures, which is the district priorities. As noted, no priorities were included in the 26-27 budget proposal. Priority items will be discussed during the March 23rd, 2026 school board meeting. Moving to the next section, which is the capital projects plan. This is a relatively important component of the plan, which outlines anticipated building maintenance and infrastructure projects over the next 10 years. Recognizing that no decisions have been made regarding major capital projects related to realignment, restructuring, or Emmaus High School, this version of the plan presumes a business-as-usual approach, focusing on routine maintenance, equipment replacement, and continuing annual contributions to the capital reserve to address essential capital needs. Again, this is a dynamic plan and can certainly be updated as needed at any point. We would just make revisions. You may recall those board members who were with us last year, we had started to incorporate some planning, and in an effort to not sort of be presumptuous in terms of any direction, we just went back to sort of business as usual. Here's what we've done, and here it is projected into the future. In addition, in the plan narrative, actually, you can see it on this slide toward the bottom. We added an update to recognize that the district has undertaken several significant Guaranteed Energy Savings Act, or GESA projects, in recent years to modernize building systems within our elementary schools. The narrative also highlights that these investments have extended the life of critical building systems while improving energy performance and maintaining high-quality learning in a high-quality learning environment, for our students and staff in those elementary schools. The next section is a summary of general fund and capital funds. And at the top of this page, there's a summary of the general fund. At the bottom contains the summary of the general fund, the top is the general fund, the bottom is the capital fund. These pages show us the effects of transfers of the general fund from the general fund to the capital reserve fund and allow us to monitor the availability of funds to complete anticipated capital projects. This page is essentially this page is essential for the current pay-as-you-go financial model to ensure that funds are available to complete annual projects. So again, we sort of schedule those out into the future and ensure that transfers to the fund will be able to cover those projects. The next section of the slide is an evaluation of combined fund balance and capital reserve contribution targets. So this page is divided into two sections. As I said, the combined fund balances, which are different from the summary at the beginning of the plan. You'll recall at the beginning of the plan, we showed the fund balance as a percent of anticipated expenditures. In this part of the plan, what we've done is combine the general fund balance and the capital reserve fund balance to evaluate that combined balance as a number of months of operating expenditures. And what we've done is benchmark that against 2 months, which is what tends to be recommended and preferred by bond rating agencies. And so this outlook tends to give us a more clear overall fiscal position than the original one, as would be looked at by, again, those rating agencies. I'd also like to highlight, if you recall, as our financial advisory team has made presentations, they have combined these two balances as well, so it's relatively standard. At the bottom of the page, we have the capital reserve contribution target. So several years ago, as we were trying to figure out how much we should be contributing annually to the capital reserve, as we were just getting that process started, we came up with this metric, and it establishes a formula-based annual contribution to the capital reserve, and it's a target. But it's important to remember it's a formulaic suggestion, right? It takes a formula, offers a suggestion of what we might contribute, but we really need to remember that the actual contribution amount needs to be considered in the greater context of the district's overall financial plan. Next section of the plan is the technology plan, which was added just a few years ago. Again, looking to assist with long-range planning and help us prepare for future technology, equipment, and infrastructure costs. On pages 39 to 41, it outlines significant annual expenditures for technology equipment. And then on page 42, it contains funding targets and a spending plan to maintain technology infrastructure, which will be operationalized through the newly created Technology Stabilization Fund. There was a question during the last meeting about, how much would be contributed annually, and would that you take all of the excess funds at the end of each year. You can see here the target for 25-26 is $400,000. Again, that is not a budgeted transfer, but would be taken from excess funds available at the end of the year. And then that increases by about $10,000 a year, again, to make sure that we have funds available to be able to effectively pay for technology infrastructure in the future. The next section is scenario analysis of various tax rate increases. So this takes 3 scenarios and then attaches some iterations. The scenarios are based on the 26-27 budget. They include a 0% tax increase, a 1.5% tax increase, and a 2.8% tax increase. And sort of by default, the overall plan currently has a 4.1% tax increase. So basically, that's like a third, a third, a third. We just, if you figure from roughly from 0 to 1.5 is a third, 1.5 to 2.8 is a third, and 2.8 to 4.1 is a third. So that's how we came up with those percentages for 26, 27. Then in the iterations, in the future years, the first one, iteration A, assesses the implications of maintaining a 0% real estate tax increase in each of those subsequent years. Iteration B calculates the average tax rate increase that would be needed each year to achieve a 5% fund balance in 2030, 31. And then the final one evaluates the effects of applying the Act 1 index that we had estimated earlier in the plan. So those scenarios are there for your review. On page 47, we have supplemental information. The supplemental information consists of a real estate tax impact chart. So it shows the impact to tax various assessed values. So if you have a house that's assessed at the average real estate tax value, residential value of $216,367, you could see what the taxing implications would be, taxing implications and increase at 4.1%, 3, and 2. On the next slide, this actually just incorporates the tax rate in the overall plan, which is 4.1%, and shows you what the real estate tax amounts would be moving into the future at that rate, and then the additional rates in the plan. And then finally, we have a page that just very high level compares budget to estimated and budget to budget. Again, this information that was requested by board members at certain times that we've incorporated. Finally, at the end of the plan, you'll find a glossary that has information regarding local revenues and fund balance. So just circling back to the general fund summary on page 5, the decline, as we said earlier, in the current year, we have the $2.1 million current deficit. If you look out at, if you move down and over to fund balance, if you look out at 2030, 31, you can see that fund balance is showing a negative roughly $2.5 million. And that's primarily due to the structural deficit in the current year where expenditures are exceeding revenues, and that's just compounding year over year. A declining Act 1 index, which is limiting the district's ability to raise real estate taxes to keep up with the pace of the rising costs, and expenditures are assumed to grow at a faster pace than revenues, even at the max real estate tax rate increase. So that was a very quick overview of the plan. Again, it was intended to sort of orient you with the plan so you could take the plan, go back, spend a little more time looking at it, and then we will continue to update the plan. Next steps in terms of budget will be for us to start to reevaluate the 26-27 budget and start to bring information back to the board in terms of closing that budget gap. Again, that was very quick, but at this point, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Whitney?
Hi, just a couple quick clarification questions. On page 7, the assumptions page, or slide 7, yeah, page 7, that one. 2 questions. So the assessment growth, you're obviously using the average of the past several years as the marker going forward of 1.04%, but it's pretty clear there's a decline in the last few years. I mean, how comfortable do you feel with that 1.04% figure as an assumption?
Sure. I feel relatively comfortable. I believe what we're going to see is that the column J, the 25-26 to 26-27, we were using January assessments. There is a February interim that is issued, which means it adds some additional value. So I do believe we're going to see that lower 0.4% increase
Okay.
just this year, sort of organically.
Okay, great. And then I see on the same page, the district priorities here, projecting forward 5% a year, but I don't see those budgeted in the projected budgets. Is that where?
Correct.
How do we square that?
The 5% is just included it's included in here, but there are no priorities at this time.
Right.
The reason it was 5% is because the priorities represented wages, benefits, so it included all of those, so it was a higher percentage to account for that increase year over year.
I see. Okay, thank you. And then one other quick thing, page 37. This is just for my information because I don't, let's see, sorry, yes, 37. Just a curiosity thing, the physical plant appraisal value going up every year, this is not my field. I understand, property depreciates, right? Things depreciate in value. What is the basis for that going up every year? Is that just how it works? Or
Yeah,
can you
so
explain that?
this is a number we actually get directly from our insurance company. So they look at the total value of our property, plant, and equipment, and that's the basis for our insurance coverage. And so they say, okay, your entire campus, everything, this is the value, and it goes up annually because construction costs go up. The cost to replace all of it continues to go up, and so that's the basis of the annual increase.
Got it. Thanks for the explanation.
Sure.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
I have a couple.
Yes, Dr. Perez?
Thank you for a very thorough presentation. I
Sure.
appreciate that. I had some questions that came up as you were talking, so if you don't have the answers,
Okay.
we could go back to that. For charter schools, I'm wondering, do you have data that shows what schools the students are attending by grade level? So, like, I'm a data person, if you can tell. I like data. What I'm looking for is how many students are attending each of the various charter schools in our area by grade level, just to see where we are with student attendance at grade level, and to then maybe think about developing some sort of plan to kind of stop the tide and bring some back. I kind of mentioned that last time.
Sure.
But, I'm still kind of thinking about ways to either stem kids from actually going or bringing some kids back in to recoup some of those monies. So
Okay.
I'll just put that out there.
Okay.
The Ready to Learn grant, can you clarify for the public what the allowable uses of those funds are? Because we want to make sure that they understand that there's parameters.
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I don't know all the allowable uses. What we have used them for is basically kindergarten, full-day kindergarten. And so we've been able to use the broad justifications under the Ready to Learn grant to continue to fund or to fund more of our full-day kindergarten program using the grant funds.
Thank you.
Fortunately, they do not have a supplant, not supplement. We are able to supplement with those funds, so.
Thankfully. There's that. For benefit of the public, can you just share what the recommended guidelines are and best practices for maintaining a fund balance? I think the fund balance has a certain percentage of the district budget.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the presentation, if you look at external organizations, the Government Finance Officers Association or Moody's and Standards and Poor's as rating agencies, their recommendation is that you maintain 2 months of anticipated expenditures as a fund balance.
Thank you. And final question is, how is the district adjusting and preparing for ongoing increases in fuel costs like gas and electricity?
We lock into long-term. We lock into long-term contracts to stabilize that. Certainly, at the end of each contract, there's an opportunity for those to increase, but we don't necessarily see. We try to mitigate the sort of gas pump for lack of a better term, volatility by locking into longer-term contracts. Maybe 1 or 2 years ago, we saw increases in the energy markets in terms of the transmission component. We've seen the commodity component go up a few years ago. I'm told that on the horizon, there are, for electricity, because of the stress on the PJM on the grid, that costs are going to be going up. So again, we sometimes we have sort of advance notice of that, other times we don't. So we try to mitigate it.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure.
Anyone? Yes. Dr. Levinson, and then we'll hop right over.
Here's that.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I appreciate this exercise every year, putting this together. It really puts things in perspective. The fact that this is I guess you would call it the initial version of the long-range fiscal and capital plan with numbers that have been consistent over the last month and a half, so at least what we're looking at is consistent with what we saw before, and I'm sure already you're looking at other ways to refine it in the background and having another version of this ready to go when we see it again. I guess my comment leading to a rather general or vague question is more of a big picture. I mean, obviously, with any budget, our goal has been, since I've been on the board and moving forward, is going to try and create a budget that is going to maintain our quality programs and find ways to enhance when there is opportunity to do so. I think another layer on this is we've spent a lot of time these last few years talking about our facilities and other programmatic needs that are going to require some form of investment. And if it hasn't been driven home already, the financial landscape is extremely challenging at this point in trying to achieve even maintaining what we have. So, I think, big picture-wise, I think the primary goals of this next budget, and I guess in order of attack, would be number one, attacking that structural deficit of 2.1 million at the Act 1 index, and bringing that to balance. I think the second goal would be to, again, what we can do to change our expenditure and revenue expectations so that we could do better than the Act 1 index, and again, provide some alleviation to the impact we're going to have on our community and taxpayer. And I think the third, which is a challenge, but again, trying to speak to those long-term goals that we have to address our facility and programmatic needs, is to try and build in some mechanisms so that we have greater capacity in the budget to take on the debt service that's going to be required in order to do these things. All the while, the things going on with the rapid increases in areas like healthcare and things like that, creating challenges just to even meet what our base obligations are. So again, at this point, I don't know how much you can actually say about it, but and again, I probably can anticipate the answer, but I'd appreciate some comment on what is currently under consideration to try and achieve those three areas of fiscal management and meeting long-term goals, and what it might take in order to meet those funding goals, and in areas that might under consideration that we may or may not want to tackle, depending on what we find to be important.
I think I can most readily talk about closing the gap, because I've sort of already done that. Certainly that is our first priority. As this budget currently stands, it could not be adopted by the board because it represents it could be. It wouldn't be my recommendation because it represents a deficit. You would essentially use fund balance, and we would have twice the problem next year that we have this year, and I would never want to see us put ourselves in that situation. So the deficit needs to be addressed. I think your second question was in terms of going below the index. combined with future planning for facilities. And unfortunately, I mean, I'll just sort of say, like, I think any future planning for facilities requires implementation of capacity, i.e. staying at the index or being higher than where you would otherwise need to be in the budget, right? To build capacity and be able to have that additional capacity to pay debt service. So I think those two things are a little bit in conflict. It doesn't mean that if we were at, let's say, the represented need was 2.5% in terms of Act 1 index, and we went to 3 and we were still under 4.1, like, yes, there's the ability to get some capacity there. So not completely in conflict, but I think where we are right now, those two things are going to be a little bit in conflict. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And again, I fully appreciate the challenge that's before us. And again, we want to position the district, in order to, meet current and future needs. But what we have before us is just making that very difficult. But again, I appreciate the thoughtful response.
Thank you.
Ms. Diovelli?
Back on page 7. Just a comment on the year-over-year increases and decreases as they look pretty substantial in some cases. Are you comfortable with the average there, or kind of to Dr. Whitney's point earlier, are you looking more at the trends, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, so while this is what you're seeing, I'm applying a level of professional judgment and sort of looking at these a little more sort of in depth. Sometimes I pull out some additional documents to look at them and say, okay, I see what this is saying, but what else is behind the scenes? It's sort of like when I talked about the district-wide instruction representing 9.37%. I went back and looked at that and said, okay, why is that? That feels high to me. Why does that feel high? And I went back and started to investigate what was causing some of that. And that's what led me to say, what, that is high. I don't foresee that being a future trend. And so I think the future trend is more realistically 3.5%. So I would say for those other areas, if I didn't call them out, there's a level of reasonableness. Are they accurate? None of us know that, right?
It's a projection.
They're projections.
Exactly. Okay.
But they seem reasonable overall, applying professional judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay. So I don't have a question per se, just some comments, and really directed mostly at the community, because, often when we talk about finances, it may seem really high level and you could get drowned in the information. And so I just was writing down the things that I know as a community member always pique my curiosity. You had mentioned about the real estate taxes show volatility, so you're putting it in as 0.
The interim real
Yes.
estate taxes, yes.
Right. So, in real terms, I think to myself, it's an unreliable source so that we're not using that number. I'm just saying simple terms, correct?
I might just correct that. I think it's a reliable source. I think the change, relying on the change, is somewhat unreliable. I mean, there will be interims, because interims are generated from somebody improving their house, a new house was built. Those things will continue to happen. Let's say the district is completely built out and no new houses are going to be added, but people are still going to put improvements on their home. They're going to add a shed, so there will be interims.
Okay.
It's just the reliability of the sort of volatility of change, where some years we've had more interims because more things have been done. A subdivision was finished and there was a lot more. Other years it was lower because there was less activity. So if I might just correct, I think it's a reliable source.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the change that we see from year to year is somewhat unreliable to depend on.
That helps. It's plain speak. So I think I could use that. Here was another one. Expenses outpacing expenditures. And I know that has come up over and over again. I keep hearing that. And I know, when people in the community are listening, that's something that jumps out. I know you talked about the healthcare expenses, and, you know, my first thought was the same thing that our community is experiencing in that area, the district is experiencing. Would I be correct to say that?
That's correct. It's a local, it's a state, it's a national trend right now in healthcare.
Thank you. And that was it, all in there. But thank you for the information. Thank you. The presentations are always very helpful.
Sure. Thank you.
Moving on, under personnel, and I'd like to take a motion to approve item 6A.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? If none, then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Campbell. She has a little information to share.
We need to do the roll call.
Oh, forgot about the vote, sorry. Ms. Allen?
Dr. Levinson,
Aye.
Dr. Perez,
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Klotz,
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Now I can turn it over.
I just wanted to recognize two staff members who will be retiring at the end of this school year, and the board just accepted their resignations for the purpose of retirement. First, Deb Shelton, who is instructional assistant at Lower Macungie Middle School. Throughout her 15-year career here in East Penn, working with many, many students, she's served at both Eyre and Lower Macungie. And then also we wanted to recognize Maria Russo, who will retire at the end of this school year. Maria has been a member of our high school math team for 23 years. And so we congratulate both of them and wish them very well on the next step of their journey.
Awesome, thank you. All right, under business operations, moving on to agenda item number 7. Under business operations, I'd like a motion to approve item 7A and 7B, if possible together.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? All right, Ms. Allen, if you could call the roll.
Dr. Perez,
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson,
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Also, under business operations, I'd like a motion to approve item 7C, contracts and agreements. Might I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Kelly.
I do. I have a couple questions about the lease agreement. And mine center more just around the idea of one-to-one technology in general. So I was wondering what we've done to look at learning impact of one-to-one devices. We see a growing research that is talking about distraction and synthesis of particularly reading decreasing, and I'm wondering what evidence we're seeing either in our district or nationally that about one-to-one device programs and how it affects student learning, particularly at the elementary levels.
I might back up a little bit if you don't mind, and I will respond to your question. But I say that because I think when we talk about the results or the impact of a one-to-one learning program, I think critical to that is how students are using the device. And so I want to just give, for the purpose of, I should say, for the benefit of the board and the community, I just want to give a little bit of background in terms of this lease agreement, what its its purpose, and then I will also go through some points that I think are important for the board and the community just with regard to how those iPads are used. And so that might answer other questions that people that hopefully many of you might have. So the motion on the agenda is for a master lease agreement for iPads at the elementary level as well for teachers as well as all students K to 5. So each student does have a device. The purchase has been planned as part of the long-range technology plan. So in the previous presentation, you would have noticed that it had been planned for as part of that. In terms of timing, why is it coming about now? This is typically the time of year at which we would start planning for the update of the purchase. I think you can appreciate that when we're ordering over 3,500 devices, it's important that we have those devices as early as possible in the start of the summer so that our technology team can begin preparing those devices. I will also mention that financially right now, we also have an interest rate, or I should say a 0% financing rate that is certainly a piece of the overall financial package. So that's just background on the lease itself for the iPads. So when we talk about how iPads are used, and I think we can speak to this really, even if we're talking about K to 12 and how technology is used throughout the district, our vision is that the technology purposefully enhances learning, and from a teacher's perspective, that technology purposely enhances instruction. And so I will also say that and I'm going to unpack that a little bit more in terms of what does that actually mean? Like, what does it look like in elementary classrooms? I also want to say that probably since COVID, and when we returned to full-time in-person instruction, teachers, administrators, community members have been having very serious conversations about screen time and how much time are students on those devices when they're in our classrooms. And I can recognize that many people may erroneously assume that if a student has a device that is theirs, right, and they have it with them all day, and then I think there might be questions about, do they take devices home at the elementary level? But if they have that device with them at all times, I could see where people would logically assume, well, that must mean kids are on those devices all day long. And that has been a great topic of discussion for us, and I will also say action. And what I mean by that is we have a team that meets really as almost an overarching steering committee or guidance to talk about how much time what are the guidelines for how often we want students to be using technology? And so again, it first comes back to how students are using it at the elementary level, and then I'll talk about that time piece. So when we think about how much or how students are using it, I'm going to focus specifically at elementary level because tonight's discussion is about those iPads. I would say one of the primary ways is personalized learning. And what that means is through lessons, students use their iPad to access lessons or activities that are differentiated, meaning Mr. Saul and I, based on perhaps in English language arts, ELA, we might have different reading levels. And so while we are both likely using the same app, Mr. Saul's reading activities that he's accessing, his learning activities that he's accessing via his iPad are different from mine. So individualized or differentiated learning activities in ELA, English Language Arts, as well as math. What students are accessing is specific apps that are loaded onto their device, selected explicitly by district administration in collaboration with teachers. In reading at the elementary level, it is often, not always, but often Lexia, as well as EPIC in the more intermediate grades. Lexia would typically be K to 5, more heavily in primary, and then EPIC, when it might be used, would be intermediate. We also see, you heard reference earlier to Seesaw. Seesaw would be another platform that primary students might be using to access some of their interventions in which they're manipulating letters and sounds. And so that would be a way in which primary students might use their iPad, again, to access specific apps. The other piece would be, the other main time during which elementary students are using their iPad would be for math. And so again, similarly in math, we have iReady. Those lessons are differentiated by students based on how they perform in previous lessons or activities. So that's and then when we also look at the intermediate level, students, this happens probably more at the intermediate level in perhaps 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Students would be using their iPad for content creation. They might be using apps such as Keynote, Pages, iMovie, Canva, and that could be almost cross content area. So those are examples of how students are using technology, and also a significant deal, I'll say, writing in the intermediate level as well. When are they using their iPads? As I mentioned, it's during ELA most often, and math most often, as part of their station time. So at the elementary level, you've heard us talk about schedules before. We are, I'm going to say, really have the great gift of large blocks of instructional time that provides teachers with an opportunity for whole group instruction, and then students can divide up into smaller groups based on specific skill or need. One group would be working directly with the teacher in direct small group instruction. Another group would be working on an independent task that is non-technology related. And then another station would be a technology-related station, which would be those apps that I just talked about, typically Lexia and ELA or iReady in math. So that's the how and when students are accessing the technology. And then how often are, again, based on feedback from teachers, administrators, and also some of the programs themselves. We've given careful consideration to how much time students are then spending on their iPads. In ELA and math, the guidelines that we have provided for our teachers is, and again, I'm going to generalize, but at the K-2 level, it's approximately 40 minutes per week per content area. So per week, K-2 students are on their iPads approximately 40 minutes for the entire week. That might look like 10 minutes for 4 days or 15 minutes, but it's about 40 minutes. And then at math, the approximate amount of time is, again, 40 minutes per week at the primary level. That gets a little bit higher in the intermediate level, up to about 50 minutes per week. We have guidelines. How do we know if we are actually being true to those guidelines? So we have the ability to pull usage reports, particularly for those apps that I referenced, and we do that. We can do that at the building level. We can do that at the district level, and share that, again, our average usage per grade level per week is about 40 minutes in ELA and about 40 minutes in math. In the intermediate grades in math, it does typically tend to get up to about 50 minutes per week. But we do have information that says, in general, we are being true to those guidelines that we set forth. I also appreciate that there might be wonderings about our teachers assigning online or homework to be completed online using the iPad. In general, our teachers are not assigning homework via the iPad. I absolutely will say that you can appreciate there might be situations in which students were not present in a particular station and they might have iReady lessons that they need to complete at home. And so do I know that there are times where students are taking their iPads home and they have homework to complete? Yes, but in general, our teachers are very mindful about screen time and purposefully using the technology when students are here with us in our classrooms. And so that was a really long-winded answer to your question, Mr. Kelly. And in terms of, do we have trends in terms of how the iPads are impacting student performance. I will say what we actually look at is data on how our students are performing on the particular learning activities that they're doing on the iPad. And they are successful with those. And then other metrics that we're looking at would be our benchmark data. And that's another example of how students might be using their iPads to take the benchmark assessments. So on the weeks when they're taking the benchmark assessments, we might pull them back from technology in one of the other areas. But we also look at how they're progressing as readers, how they're progressing as mathematicians. And we can't absolutely make a clean correlation of our students are doing better on this particular skill in math because of iReady, but we do look again at growth in terms of how they're performing on benchmark assessments, how they might be performing on specific standards measured by the PSSA. We might look at their PVOS data, and certainly we're looking at overall growth, but I mean, I don't think that we have the data to the level that we're able to say it's because of this app that students have grown or achieved this particular skill. I think it's ongoing conversations that teachers have. You know, we have a lot of conversations, for example, I know at the elementary level with regard to fact fluency. And so there might be reflex that students can do on their iPad to help practice those facts. Some teachers, perhaps more in the primary level, might do paper and pencil fact practice. But, you know, we identify needs and then identify how technology can help us to enhance teaching and learning.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Perez.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
To all of that. A lot of good information. Thank you for that. So I can imagine that some students could possibly benefit from the use of the iPad for longer than the 40 minutes a day, just due to accessibility needs or other universal design needs at all. So is there work that's being done to implement really universal design for learning and incorporating that as a tool, not as the only way they learned?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because another critical piece or another advantage to the iPads for our learners K-12 that I was remiss to share, and so I appreciate you bringing it up, is for perhaps our students with special needs and our multilingual students. And so there are incredible accessibility features that students have access to via technology. And so that is absolutely a continued consideration, not just in our regular programming, but in our specialized programming as well.
Great, thanks. Yeah. And then one more question. For students who may not be able to access internet regularly at home, are hotspots available for them?
I believe we have hotspots available in all of our school libraries. Okay. Is that technology, through the technology office?
So they can check it out or whatever.
Yes,
right?
Thank you for asking, because I appreciate as well. I think the questions sometimes are also so that the public, it's an opportunity for us to say,
100%.
if there is a family that has a need securing internet resources, we do have hotspots, and you just have to contact the technology department.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good refresher.
Yes. Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, so thank you for your answers, Dr. Campbell. I do have a question. If we're not assigning homework for the students on a regular basis at younger ages, have we evaluated whether going back to the carts and having a classroom set so that these students aren't taking the iPads home and back, and having the ability to watch YouTube and spend as much time on their devices at home as possible? If they have we evaluated whether it would be a cost saving and it would be worth it to introduce these iPads at maybe 3rd or 4th grade as opposed to kindergarten?
I think you approach that question from multiple angles, so I'll attempt to answer. Our team has, at one point, we were not one-to-one, and we had shared iPad use, K-2, I believe. We experienced significant difficulties with managing that and students being able to access the resources they needed on the device. So while it seems like perhaps a simple solution, we found in practice it was not, a shared device process was not meeting the teaching and learning needs in the classroom. The other part of your question is, so that would be the piece about if we have fewer devices in particular grade levels, let's say K to 2, is that a way to reduce costs? So we continue to support every student having access to a device. The other part of your question was about taking the devices home. I will also say a continued conversation with our team, teachers, administrators. We hear feedback as well from parents about, and sometimes that's mixed, right? Like that's not atypical, and so it really is about identifying the core purpose of the technology, and is it essential to go home? Currently, devices at the elementary level are sent home mid-October-ish and through mid-March. The timing of that is explicit so that at the beginning of the year, our team has time to facilitate sessions with students in terms of internet safety and digital citizenship. And so after they have gone through some of those initial lessons, students then have a device to take home. Not the sole purpose, but one of the reasons is so that students have access to technology in the event that we have a flexible instructional day. Again, not the sole reason for sending them home, but one of the reasons. There are some families who perhaps want the device to come home so that students have access to a device while at home. But our committee, our team continues to have conversations of, particularly I'm going to say at the K to 2 level, is it appropriate that we continue to send those devices home? I don't sit here tonight and have the answer. I just share with you that it is a continued question, and there perhaps are multiple reasons, including more opportunities when we send those devices home for them to come back not charged and/or for them to perhaps be damaged. So there are multiple, and if students aren't necessarily having to use the device for instructional purposes, must it go home? But there are multiple reasons as to why we continue to really circle around that question of should we send the devices home. So there's more to come. I'm just almost going to put a pin on that and say our team continues to deliberate on that.
Okay. And you find with technology advances and logging into things that you would still have the same difficulties that we were in 2019, 2017 with having a classroom set as opposed to an individual device?
When you say a classroom set, do you mean having a device for each student, or do you mean having perhaps 6 devices? And so when group 1 is on their rotation at their station, like group 1 logs in, and then when they're finished, group 2 comes the next rotation.
Well,
is that what you mean?
Question. It would be more geared towards like a cost savings.
Yeah. So perhaps reducing the number of devices per grade level.
Yeah.
Again, our technology team at this point still recommends the one-to-one in terms of ease of management, security of data, to have it be that each student would have one device.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Billman, do you have more to add to that?
One of the points with regards to part of our implementation of the one-to-one program here at East Penn is that equity of access, and to be able to provide that access for all of our students, regardless of what grade they're in. And that's one of the things that we continue to focus on, as Dr. Campbell mentioned earlier, in regards to differentiated instruction and regards to be able to be personalized learning. That's the core to why providing the devices. From the technology standpoint, also we look at regards to that access and accessing those applications and be focused on instructional time. In a shared environment, it's very time consuming when students have to sign out, sign back in, who's been signed out, sign back in. It really doesn't work. We tried it, we gave it a go, didn't work. And that's one thing we really focused on regarding keeping that mind regarding our instructional time and not having focus on if students have access or don't they have access, but they know that that's their iPad, the access to the applications that we've been discussing this evening, be able to have those in real time and be able to limit the time of downtime with trying to get signed in, signed out, and be able to have access because they know where they find the apps on their iPad, they know what apps they need to get to, and be able to provide that. In a shared environment, it gets very, very cumbersome.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that.
Sorry, I have another question.
Dr. Perez?
Yeah, thank you. So as the students are taking the devices home and engaging with them at home, are there opportunities for family education on how to structure student time at home so that there's a balance? And, sometimes folks need a little help and extra support and some strategies on how to help their students understand the balance of how much time to spend on a device versus being off.
I'll say there has been, at many of our buildings, I know there have been parent sessions in which we have, our leaders have talked about appropriate technology use. I also will fully recognize that certainly an area for continued growth for us, in terms of not just, and I'm going to say not even so much with the district device, but we know that perhaps students might have access to, some students might have access to mobile technology, a phone. And so, again, continuing to work alongside parents in terms of screen time and how often are students using technology. Again, I know we've done it at some buildings, we've done some work district level, but certainly an area for continued conversation.
Great, thank you.
Any other, Dr. Whitney?
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of the discussion that I was hoping to initiate has been had and responded to, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the response. And I appreciate the reasons why the one-to-one device is, makes sense from a standpoint of, I'll say ease of instruction, convenience. I fully can understand that. I remain pretty unconvinced that it is essential for us to provide devices to our youngest learners. And I guess when I say our youngest learners, I would classify that as K through 2. I think, if I remember sort of the conversations around when one-to-one devices, and I wasn't on the board when this happened in East Penn, but the conversations around one-to-one devices always seemed to me to be kind of in the realm of, well, we need to, provide them devices because otherwise they may not get, the right kinds of experience using those devices, and they may not develop good technological skills if the school doesn't provide it. I think we're well past that in our world, in our society at this point. I don't think that, that sort of digital literacy argument is necessarily a justification to me to put the devices in the hands of the youngest learners. I also would, I guess, in regards to your remarks, Dr. Campbell, and I appreciate you coming with the data of at least the guidelines of how many minutes per week these devices are being used, and certainly that's not a lot of minutes. And so I guess my response to that would be to question whether we need the devices if it's not that much instructional time, and are the benefits of having it for those minutes outweighing what I would see as the detriments, which would be increased screen time, increased emphasis on using devices as part of the educational process at that age. And this is not about being anti-technology. This is, to me, a question of what's the right developmental pacing, and it certainly sounds like your team and your teachers and throughout the district, these conversations are being had about what is the most appropriate developmental pacing of giving these devices, and I appreciate that those conversations are being had. My concern with here tonight, we have a lease agreement in front of us for 5 years for full one-to-one devices in K through 5, and I'm hesitant to vote yes on that tonight without some more evidence that these devices are truly effective in K through 2 at improving reading scores, improving math scores. And you alluded to the fact that there's some internal studies that have shown that there is improvement. I would love to see some of that data, and I would love to hear from some teachers at those ages as to whether these devices are are enhancing their ability to teach, and I'm sure there's many ways in which they are, and I'm open to hearing about that. But I guess at this point, I don't know that I've heard enough to outweigh what to me is, a difficult, I think we are at a point where we can evaluate whether we as a district should continue to put iPads into kindergarten learners' hands, and whether that is the right course of action. And if we decide that it is, great. And I'm open, again, to all the benefits of it. I certainly see the benefits of personalized learning and individualized learning. But again, I think the iPads obviously offer that, but are we truly seeing the benefits on the other side? There's been studies done outside of East Penn, and you can find a lot of studies that look at a third grade, one-to-one device district versus non, and there's not a lot of significant difference in a lot of studies about reading levels, for example, and math levels, and at least some of the initial research that I've done. And I'm not trying to claim that I'm an expert in this field, but I am trying to educate myself about it. And I think the final thing I would say is that we are about to, most likely in this state, pass a cell phone ban, a personal device ban, K through 12, in all schools statewide. At least that looks likely to happen. It may not. And I understand that's personal devices. That's not school-issued devices. But I do think it brings up an important question of what is the technological environment that we are going to be having in our schools going forward, and does that mean that we should maybe have a deeper discussion about whether or not we need to start in kindergarten with these devices. So that's my perspective. And so, I'm going to vote no on this lease agreement tonight. I would love to have a deeper, more comprehensive discussion, or see some more comprehensive information and show that, this is really beneficial for us in order to go forward. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
If I may also add a few comments, reflections, and not intended to be a rebuttal or a response to that. I appreciate the very honest feedback. I will say another very common experience is that instructional resources are now almost exclusively offered online. And so it is about our students having the equitable access to technology to be able to utilize the instructional resources that support a particular program. Again, and I don't say that as, well, that's a compelling reason to change someone's mind, but we, little bit of a look behind the curtain in terms of looking at some instructional resources. For example, in ELA, most of those programs have a strong technology component for what I just referred to in terms of that station work. It's a common instructional model. The other reflection I have is, and again, I appreciate the thinking about putting technology in the hands of our kids, and technically that's what we're doing, but I guess I tend to look at it as we're actually putting technology in the hands of teachers and allowing them to purposely design instruction and their classroom and their models in terms of how and when that technology use is going to be most beneficial to student learning. And so I do trust the ways in which our teachers are using it. Absolutely. I know that in our grade level meetings, we have continued conversations about what are those district expectations, what are teachers seeing, what are the struggles that they're having with regard to meeting those expectations. There are times where perhaps a publisher may recommend that students might be on a particular app, such as, and I'm just going to give an example of iReady. I'm not saying it is iReady, but perhaps you're on 20 minutes a day, and we have made the decision that's way too much for our students, and so we're going to scale that back, right? Again, we always maintain that the ability to control, to design that instructional environment in terms of how the technology is used. So again, I absolutely appreciate everything you said, and I didn't make that comment in an attempt to shift your thinking, but just wanted to also add the perspective in terms of, I think, maybe how our team approaches it.
Yes, Mr. Jankowski.
I didn't anticipate having this type of discussion around this contract tonight. However, that being said, I think there's a lot of valid points that have been raised tonight, and I appreciate all the information you provided us. So this is not a reflection on your preparedness to speak about this tonight or the information you relayed. But I think from my perspective, the points that were raised, the questions that were asked warrant more than a perfunctory vote tonight. So I would offer up a motion to table this vote for the Apple lease agreements, subject to additional presentation, so that we can understand more how effective the devices are, particularly from the K through 2 ages, and whether it warrants a $1.2 million budget item at this stage.
Okay.
But proceed with.
Ask for, let's deal, you're moving to table that portion that deals just with the app.
Just the
proposed
Apple, just the Apple leases.
Ask for a
Well,
second.
that's the item that we're discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ask for a second.
I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Okay, take a vote.
Ms. Allen, a vote, please.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Dr. Perez?
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
No.
7 ayes, 1 nay. But that item is, that particular item is tabled.
All right.
So we still have the
Now we're
vote on the
Now we're going to
other
go back
part
to
of
the
the agreement.
remaining item
Yep.
under 4C. There's a motion already on the floor.
Yes.
There's a motion already on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Is
on
there
that
any
item?
comments or questions?
On the McNeese,
About the remainder
Wallace.
of, remainder of
What
item
about the
4C?
remainder of item 4C?
I do, just as you put together information to present, I do want to be clear that I think our district, and again, seeing with my own children and the learning that the teachers are using the iPads for, they're using them effectively.
We've got-
Okay.
I apologize, Mr.
No, that's
Kelly.
right.
I just want to technically table this
Right.
item.
So,
It's your
that's it.
call.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's been tabled.
yeah. Do you want me to do it?
But if someone.
We're past that now.
So we've actually, the board
Okay.
has actually tabled
Tabled
it.
Okay. I was just going to ask
I mean,
for
you
certain
can certainly-
information,
Yeah.
but that's okay. All right. Sorry.
That's all right.
So you're back to the remainder of item 4C, which is the McNeese
Okay.
contract.
I wasn't sure.
Okay,
Oh, it's okay. All right. So back to the McNeese contract. Do I need to take a vote?
Yeah, you need to
Yes.
take a vote.
Ms. Allen, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Stiavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Dr. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. Next, under business operations, if there are no objections from the board, I'd like to take a motion to put together items 7D and 7E. 7D is the use of district facilities, and 7E is student activity fund advisors together. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Okay.
Should I just pick
Ms.
one?
Klotz. You can have it.
Any comments or questions? No? All right. Ms. Allen, you can call the roll.
Mrs. Stiavelli.
Aye.
Dr. Whitney.
Aye.
Jankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Klotz.
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
Dr. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Price. I'm sorry, Ms. Price is not here. I apologize. Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to Section 8 under policy. Tonight is our final reading and approval of policy. May I have a motion to approve items 8A?
So moved.
I would actually like to make a motion to separate. Is that possible? To separate one of the policies?
Sure. So you'd like them separated instead of the motion to couple them together, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Once you want separated.
Which one would you like separated out?
Policy 816.
Okay, so ask for a motion on everything else first.
Okay.
Okay.
So was that all right, Ms. Allen?
Yeah.
All right. So the motion is for everything other than item 816.
Correct.
All right.
Thank
And I
you.
have a motion for that.
I'm sorry, we were
I
voting.
made the motion, right? So we're just waiting for,
No, you asked.
oh, sorry. So moved.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Allen, you can call the roll for that.
Why don't you ask if
Oh,
there's
wait,
any discussion on
any comments or questions? Sorry. Anyone?
Now vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Allen, you can call the roll.
Dr. Whitney.
No.
Mr. Jankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Nay.
Ms. Klotz.
Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Separate a
Yeah.
policy. That's what
It's
I
to
thought the
separate.
motion was.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's to separate
Wait,
it.
no, I thought, we're voting,
May I?
We're voting for all the
Go ahead.
remainder policies.
You're voting on all policies except
Except-
816.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Should I do?
We're-
should I do
yeah,
a
we're
roll
voting
call
on all the
again?
policies except for 816 with this
Okay.
vote.
All right, let me.
Sorry, can we
I'll start again.
is it possible to restart them?
Yes, so Dr. Whitney.
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Klotz.
Aye. Aye.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
Dr. Perez.
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Okay. All right, so then that leaves 816, correct?
Ask for a motion.
Okay. I'd like a motion for 816 by itself. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? No?
No.
Okay, all right. Ms. Allen, if you could call the roll?
Ms. Klotz.
No.
Dr. Levinson.
Aye.
Dr. Perez.
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli.
Aye.
Dr. Whitney.
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
All right, so moving on to Section 9, other educational entities. May I have a motion to approve item 9A, the CLIU proposed 26-27 budget and?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Are we going to do both?
I was,
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
I was going to couple them together. I wasn't fast enough. I'd like to take item 9A, the CLIU proposed 26-27 budget, and item 9B, LTRI-C 26-27 budget. Can I have a motion for that?
Well, you already have a motion on the floor for the A,
Yeah, sorry.
unless they both agree to amend their motion or just do them separately.
Okay, I can do them
Why don't
separately.
you do it separately?
All
It's
right.
easier that way.
So we're just going to start with item 9A, the CLIU proposed 26-27 budget. Can I have a motion for that?
And that was Dr.
He is-
Already
Oh,
motion.
sorry.
So moved.
And then did you?
I second
and
it. I'll
Mr.
keep it.
Jankowski seconded, okay.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, Ms. Allen?
Mr. Jankowski,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Klotz,
Aye.
Dr. Levinson,
Aye.
Dr. Perez,
Aye.
Mrs. Stiavelli,
Aye.
Dr. Whitney,
Aye.
Ms. Ford.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Okay. So item 9B, LTRI-C, the 26-27 budget. And I see someone standing. Can I have a motion first?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any comments?
Mrs. Thompson.
I'm going to recognize Mrs. Thompson. Come on up. Thank you.
You know, the other organizations that are part of East Penn's education program get to report monthly, I think, and I seemingly only get to report once, so I will try and be quick. And I'm sure the very first thing you're interested in hearing about is the budget. And we haven't increased the budget in over a decade. The funding formula, just in case you didn't know it, when the Community College Act was put into effect, was the state would pay a third, the owners, and you're one of the owners, would pay a third, and the students would pay a third. And the present time, you pay 9%. So it shows that we haven't increased what we're asking for quite a while. And this year, there are 8 districts that go up and 5 go down. We are one that goes up by 1.1%. Now, let me tell you some of the exciting things about the community college. I'm sure that you all read in the newspaper about Eli Lilly coming to the Lehigh Valley with $3.5 billion investment. I was there at that press conference in the second row. And LTRI-C is getting $5 million from the state, and the college is having $5 million. And we are going to do all the training for the people at that particular facility. And we are changing some classrooms and so forth. We're going to have the clean room. We're going to train the people, and they will go right from us right to the facility to be employed. Their average salary is $100,000 a year. And they're anticipating having 850 employees. The building itself has to be done very carefully, and they're anticipating 2,000 trained union employees doing it. So it's a big deal. You probably already know that we are one of 4 schools in the country that train Amazon employees. We have different cohorts. They come from all over the country. They come for a period of weeks, and we're one of 4 that do that. So in terms of exciting things at the college, that's all exciting. In terms of money, however, in terms of our physical plant, and that's an area where school districts have part of what it costs for the physical plant. Since the fiscal year 2022 through 2025, the college has spent $11 million in terms of improvements and so forth. And you will be happy to know that 5.5 million of that didn't come from you. It came from other sources. So we try to be very careful with what we do. At your place, I put a flyer, a colorful flyer. The college is offering some services to you. As you probably know, starting the graduating year 2026-27, all graduating students will need to file a FAFSA. And that can be somewhat of a challenging experience. The community college will come to you and put on a program to help your students, parents, employees, help students fill out FAFSAs. That's one of the things on the paper there, if you would like to have that happen. If you were to ask me a question, you probably were familiar with the front page article about the IT disruption, that the school was, the physical facility was closed for this past week. As of 5:12 this afternoon, tomorrow, the LTRI-C Schnecksville main campus resumes operations with everything, you know, all the appointments, everything, the Schnecksville campus. The other campuses, Allentown, Donley, Tamaqua, which is the Morgan one, and the airport sites remain closed through Saturday. All off-campus courses, including dual enrollment at school districts, and the healthcare clinics and the workforce training will all occur as scheduled. The college has spent a great deal of time. They've been working around the clock to get this fixed. We continue to do exciting things. When I was here last, I talked with several people who were interested in our articulation agreements, and I brought sheets of paper with all the schools with whom we have articulation agreements. You need to go onto the website. I wrote the directions where to go on the website, and you can look at the particular schools that you're interested in. We have some amazing articulation agreements, like with Drexel. If you finish at LTRI-C with a reasonable GPA, you go to Drexel as a junior, and you go at a reduced rate, a good reduced rate. There are numerous articulation agreements that could be very helpful. Did you have any questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
Just one quick one. And thank you for all the summary and all the amazing work that the college is doing. I see that there's a reduction in the budget this year, slight reduction for full-time faculty, slightly larger one for adjunct and part-time faculty. Are those intentional positions being cut or scaled back, or is that just a natural flow from year to year?
Every week, they review positions. And every meeting that we have enrollment. And enrollment has been a problem since COVID. And first of all, we have less students graduating. Money is a factor. So consequently, we have very standard, you have to have so many in a class, and if you don't have that many in a class, you can't run that class, and so forth. So the attrition is due to the fact that we have less students.
Okay. And has that been a trend over multiple years? I mean, you're suggesting that, yeah, it's an ongoing trend.
And actually, our college is really good. Some of the schools have really high attrition rates. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate, oh, yes, go ahead, Dr. Levinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I always appreciate your single visit in a given year.
Yes, since I have a lot to talk about.
Yes. So I just want to highlight, and I appreciate you sticking to the, this is almost the end of the third hour for this meeting. We just had a whole presentation on the guidance plan, and, I think it's important to highlight that, the two-year college, and in this case, the local institution of LTRI-C is an important partner in extending a viable career enhancement option for those students that come out of East Penn and for the area. So again, I thank you on behalf of all LTRI-C for the role that you play for our students. I always try and come up with one tidbit of curiosity. Again, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but I was just wondering if you have an idea of what East Penn students like to enroll in L-Tri-C, if there's anything in particular, or if it's just an even distribution across all the programs.
I'm sorry I didn't bring that. I do have a sheet
Okay.
that tells me about East Penn students.
Okay.
I thought that was sent to you.
It is, and I apologize for not remembering it. I'll go back and look at my records. Thank you very much for that. But again, I appreciate you coming to visit.
Thank you very much. And I could thank you as a school board and the guidance counselors for really improving our dual enrollment here at East Penn. That has increased significantly, and early college is another great program to graduate from high school and get your associate degree in the same time frame. Yes, Mrs. Glatz.
Hi, really more of a comment. I appreciate the passion and the drive that you have to bring awareness of L-Tri-C to our district. And every time you're here, I learn something new about it. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you. And again, to echo Dr. Levinson, thank you so much for sticking it out for this very late meeting.
Well, to be really plain, I sat through school board meetings for 4 years that regularly went to midnight.
Please don't encourage
Ms.
any.
Thompson, Ms. Thompson, we don't talk about that. No.
The audience, it was during the concerned taxpayer years that we sat till almost midnight.
Can someone please cut her mic?
Mr. Fisher can tell you that. Thank you.
Any further questions? Dr. Perez?
It's actually a question for the administration, but I do want to thank Mrs. Thompson for just the wonderful work that is done at L-Tri-C over the many decades that you've been there. We have a tremendous number of students that take courses. From information that actually got from L-Tri-C, they shared with us, they said there's 457 unduplicated students taking 14 different courses. That's huge. So my next question is going to be around data and who are the students that are accessing these classes? Can we have some disaggregated data that show the student breakdown of who's accessing these classes, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, the whole 9 yards?
Sure, we can pull that. I will
Yeah.
say, in terms of timing, we would wait until the end of the school year when they complete their course, and then we can get that to you over the summer. Gives us a little time as well to do the disaggregation
Yeah.
piece.
And then the second question was, are there scholarship opportunities for students who want to participate but can't afford to pay the tuition?
What we do through East Penn, and I will say I actually spoke to the high school counseling department earlier today, just to confirm this information, but when you talk about affordability of these opportunities, students for the L-Tri-C dual enrollment courses, there is a fee of $30 per course, which I will say is a tremendous value to our students. We also recognize that sort of regardless of the exact dollar amount, it may be a hardship for some families. And so students and/or parents, guardians simply have to work directly with their counselor. And this will also be where I will say we are very fortunate to have incredibly strong angel networks throughout our schools. And at Emmaus High School, they help to support the tuition for those students who have the need.
Thank you.
Also, we have foundation, and the school has scholarships in terms of actually becoming a school. There's a good number of scholarships.
Thank you for adding that. Any other questions? All right, Ms. Allen? Yes, thank you.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Dr. Perez?
Aye.
Mrs. Diavelli?
Aye.
Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Next, under other educational entities, we need and we get to appoint a fourth representative to the LCTI Joint JOC Committee. And Dr. Rita Perez has volunteered to take on this role, and I'd love a motion to approve this appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions?
I'd just like to say that it's nice that we can finally bring a full contingent to LCTI JOC and meet our district obligations. So again, I appreciate both Ms. Klotz and Dr. Perez for stepping up into the role to join both Jeff and myself. I'm sorry, Mr. Jankowski, or Dr. Jankowski. Thank you.
Ms. Klotz?
I would like to welcome Dr. Perez to the JOC for LCTI, and cannot wait to have you there. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you.
And I'd also like to just echo, I'm very excited that you decided to take this on because I know you have a wealth of information. And I believe you're definitely an asset to the people who are already in the role. And so I look forward to the reports, and you make a great team. So thank you. Thank all of you. All right.
Ready for the roll?
Miss Allen?
Mr. Jankowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Klotz?
Aye.
Dr. Levinson?
Aye.
Dr. Perez?
Aye.
That's a 10
Vote for myself.
Gavelli?
It's allowed.
Aye. Dr. Whitney?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. So under announcements, we did not have an executive board tonight, but our next school board meeting is Monday, March 23rd at 7:30 p.m. here in the administration building. And if there is nothing further, I'd like a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.